Chapter 2272. Yi Xian stood quietly in space with the primordial celestial sword in his hand. Cultivate. Needless to say, without the small pagoda, it was quite strenuous to cultivate, and it made him miss the small pagoda. I wonder how Xiao Ta is doing in the Milky Way. Right now, little pagoda was probably floating high up in the sky, right? Will this guy ask me to call him Pagoda Master the next time I see him? And Little Soul and Xianxia. Of course, there's Qing, but I haven't seen her for a long time. What is she doing now? Yi Xian opened his eyes and looked into the depths of the starry sky. At this moment, he seemed to see a plain dress. At that moment, an expert's aura interrupted Yi Xian's thoughts. He turned around and saw an old man standing in the distance. The aura of a demon beast. The Fey Sky Clan. Yi Xian looked away and said calmly, "You guys are fast." The old man stared at Yi Xian. "I want to see him." Yi Xian shook his head. "There's no need." Then, he gripped the primordial celestial sword in his left hand and was about to attack. At that moment, the old man suddenly said, "I just want to see him. I mean him no harm." Yi Xian looked at the old man and said nothing. The old man said, "I'm his third uncle. His biological uncle." After a moment of silence, Yi Xian turned around. Not far away, Dao Ling and the others were walking over with Tianqi. When the old man saw Tianqi, he was stunned at first, then his expression darkened. "You can still grow to this level without the Fey god bloodline." Tianqi looked at the old man and said nothing. The old man suddenly looked at Yi Xian. "Take him away. The further the better." With that, he turned around and left. Yi Xian suddenly said, "I'm curious about something. Logically speaking, the Fey Sky Clan should be happy that Tianqi is such a monster, shouldn't they?" The elder nodded. "We should be happy." Back then, the entire Fey Sky Clan was indeed very happy. When he spoke up to hear, he seemed to have thought of something from the past, and he sighed in a low voice while his expression was extremely complicated. Yi Xian asked in a deep voice, "What happened after that?" The old man shook his head. "Young man, knowing this won't do you any good. Listen to me, take him away now, the further the better." Yi Xian looked at the old man. Originally, Tianqi had the bloodline of a demon god, but now it's gone. This meant that his demon god bloodline had been snatched away by someone. When your people came to look for him, they called him a bastard. If I'm not wrong, Tianqi's mother's position in the Demon Sky Clan was too low. That's why no one could protect Tianqi after he was born. That's why his demon god bloodline was stolen, right? Hearing this, the old man turned around and looked at Yi Xian in shock. Seeing the old man's expression, Yi Xian's face darkened. It was obvious that he had guessed correctly. The old man sighed softly. "Young man, as you said, Tianqi's mother was just a lowly servant in the Demon Sky Clan. It was because of a coincidence." At this point, he shook his head slightly. Back then, when Tianqi was born, the entire Demon Sky Clan was shocked. However, not long after, his bloodline was taken away. As you said, his mother was too weak to protect him. Yi Xian said in a deep voice, "Tianqi should have a brother. His brother's mother was very powerful in the Demon Sky Clan, right?" The old man nodded. He glanced at Yi Xian in shock. This young man could actually guess the events of the past so accurately. How terrifying! Yi Xian was a little confused. What about Tianqi's father? Did he just stand by and watch? The old man smiled bitterly. He couldn't do anything. Yi Xian looked at the old man. The reason why the Demon Sky Clan didn't do anything. The old man sighed softly. He couldn't. Back then, the authority of the Demon Sky Clan was in his hands. He represented the Demon Sky Clan. How could he do anything? Yi Xian nodded slightly. "I got it." The old man glanced at Yi Xian and said, "Young man, you aren't an ordinary person. However, the strength of the Demon Sky Clan isn't something you can imagine. It might not be too late to take him away now." Yi Xian shook his head. "It's too late. They know that Tianqi is still alive, so they will kill him." The old man fell silent. Yi Xian turned to look at Tianqi, who was still eating meat, and then he said softly, "One last question. Is Tianqi's mother still alive?" The old man nodded. Tianqi's body suddenly froze when he heard this. He was simple-minded, but he wasn't stupid. Yi Xian turned to look at the old man. Still alive? The old man nodded. Yi Xian remained silent for a long time before he said, "You can leave." The old man glanced deeply at Yi Xian, and then he turned and left. After the old man left, Yi Xian and the others gazed at Tianqi. Tianqi remained silent for a long time before he looked at Yi Xian and said, "I want to go back and take a look." Yi Xian nodded slightly. "I'll go with you." Tianqi shook his head. "It's dangerous." Obviously, he understood the attitude of the Demon Sky clan towards him. Yi Xian smiled. "Are you going to go back by yourself?" Tianqi hesitated for a moment and said, "I'll sneak back." Yi Xian shook his head. As he spoke, he walked over to Tianqi and said, 3 days. I'll go with you in 3 days. Is that all right? His void slash was still lacking a little. Thus, he wanted to cultivate a little more. Dao Ling and the others needed some time as well. Tianqi nodded. All right. Yi Xian nodded. All of them continued cultivating. 2 hours later, in an unknown part of the starry sky, Tianqi stood silently and looked into the distance. No one knew what he was thinking. Just like that, after around an hour, Tianqi turned and left. He chose to go back by himself because he didn't want to implicate Yi Xian and the others. Right at this moment, a voice sounded out from the side. "Are we going back just like that?" Tianqi was stunned. He turned and looked over. Yi Xian and the others were standing nearby. Tianqi fell silent. Yi Xian walked over to Tianqi. "If we go back like that, we'll be sending ourselves to death. Do you know that?" Tianqi didn't speak. Yi Xian said, "Do you trust me?" Tianqi was about to nod when he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly looked at Dao Ling. Dao Ling's eyelids twitched. "Fuck. Tianqi, why are you looking at me? I didn't say anything bad about Brother Yi." Yi Xian looked at Dao Ling. "He didn't say anything bad about me." Dao Ling's expression froze. Yi Xian looked at Dao Ling. "What the F***? Do you always say bad things about me behind my back?" Dao Ling hurriedly shook his head. "I really don't," Tianqi suddenly said. "He said not to trust your words. You always trick people." Dao Ling, Yi Xian. At the side, Tian and Xianxia couldn't help but laugh out loud. After interacting with Yi Xian, they had to admit that Yi Xian was indeed too flashy. Moreover, he especially liked to trick people. This Brother Yi was really deadly when it came to tricking people. Yi Xian glared at Dao Ling and then turned to look at Tianqi. "Do you trust me?" Tianqi nodded. "I do." Yi Xian nodded slightly. "Then listen to me. If I say I'll bring you back, I'll definitely bring you back." Tianqi nodded. "All right." Yi Xian suddenly turned to look at Dao Ling and the other two. Dao Ling smiled. "Tianqi's matter is my matter." Tian nodded. Yi Xian looked at Xianxia. Xianxia smiled. "Count me in." Yi Xian nodded. "All right." As he spoke, he opened his palm. The Tian tokens suddenly shot up into the sky. Soon, the masked elder appeared on the scene. The masked elder looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi." He already knew about the Immortal Mausoleum. He had to admit that he was still shocked. That terrifying Immortal Mausoleum was gone just like that. It turned out that this young Master Yi wasn't bragging. He was really awesome. Yi Xian suddenly said, "I want to know about the Fey Sky clan." The masked elder nodded. "All right." As he spoke, he turned and left. This time, he didn't say any nonsense. It didn't take long for the masked elder to appear in front of Yi Xian again. He opened his palm, and a scroll appeared before Yi Xian. Yi Xian took the scroll and said, "Thank you." The masked elder said, "Young Master Yi, you're too kind." Yi Xian smiled. "You can leave now." The masked elder nodded, and then he turned around and left. Yi Xian opened the scroll in his hand. After a short while, he said softly, "The Fey Sky clan." Tian spoke in a low voice, "What's wrong?" Yi Xian put the scroll away and smiled. "Nothing." Tian fell silent. It was obvious that the Fey Sky clan wasn't that simple. Suddenly, space split open in the depths of the starry sky, and then numerous terrifying auras swept over. Time immortal. Xianxia and the others frowned when they saw this. Obviously, the experts of the Fey Sky clan had come again. Yi Xian's expression was calm, and he didn't seem angry at all. Soon, 3 old men appeared in front of Yi Xian and the others. All 3 of them were at the time immortal realm. The leader was an old man in a gray robe. When he appeared, his eyes fell on Tianqi. When he saw Tianqi, a trace of complicated emotions flashed in his eyes. When Tianqi was born, he had shocked the entire Demon Sky clan. That was because the Demon Sky clan had struggled their entire lives to awaken the demon god bloodline that had been sealed for a long time. And the moment Tianqi was born, the demon god bloodline in his body had already been awakened. At that time, the entire Fey Sky clan was shocked. Tianqi looked at the 3 old men. He smelled a familiar aura from them. It was the aura of his own kind. However, he didn't have a good impression of them. At this time, the old man turned to look at Yi Xian. You killed the people of the Fey Sky clan? Yi Xian nodded. The old man looked at Yi Xian. You dare to take responsibility for your actions? You're a man. In that case, are you ready for the revenge of the Fey Sky clan? Yi Xian suddenly disappeared on the spot. In the distance, the old man's eyes narrowed, and he punched with his right hand. A ray of sword light suddenly tore the old man's fist apart and pierced his throat. At this time, Yi Xian appeared behind the old man. Revenge? What revenge? Behind the old man, Yi Xian sheathed his sword and said calmly, Sir, the wind was strong just now, and I didn't hear you clearly. Can you say it again? The old man. Chapter 2273. Instant kill. It had to be said that the old man was completely dumbfounded. He had never thought that he would be instantly killed by a sword. In that instant just now, all his time power seemed to be like snow in boiling oil, instantly disintegrating and vanishing. Because of that, he had been killed before he could even react. He had never thought that his time power would be so weak in front of this person. He had underestimated him. At this moment, the elder's heart could be said to be extremely shocked. Just who was this young man in front of him? Why was his strength so terrifying? On the other side, the 2 time immortals were also completely dumbfounded. They had never thought that a time immortal would be instantly killed. This was ridiculous. Both of them had thoughts of retreating. The old man in front of Yi Xian looked at him in disbelief. Reincarnation walker? Yi Xian shook his head. Don't use my cultivation level to measure me. That is an insult to me. I don't cultivate. Thank you. After saying that, he slashed with his sword. The old man's soul was directly erased. Yi Xian turned to the remaining 2 time immortals and said calmly, I won't kill you. Go back and tell your patriarch that there is no need to send anyone. We will come and find you immediately. The 2 time immortals did not even dare to say anything. They turned and disappeared into the starry sky. Saying such harsh words at this time, wasn't that like entering the toilet with a lantern? After the 2 time immortals left, Dao Ling suddenly said, Brother Yi, are we going to the Fey Sky tribe now? Yi Xian rolled his eyes at Dao Ling. Haven't you suffered enough? If we go now, are we going to get beaten up? Although he could instantly kill time immortals, the problem was that the Fey Sky tribe had super experts who were even stronger than time immortals. If they went now, not only would they be bullied, but they would also be beaten up. Their heads would be smashed. They could not do such a stupid thing. They had to grow up wretchedly. Dao Ling was stunned. Then he said, Then you said you would go and find them immediately. Yi Xian said calmly, I tricked them. After saying that, he turned and left. Dao Ling was silent for a moment. Then he said, You were too careless. Yi Xian brought Dao Ling and the others into the river of time. His goal was to help Dao Ling and the others become time immortals. With the help of Elder Jun and the others, Dao Ling and the others only needed a bit more time to reach the time immortal level. As for cultivation resources, he had enough for now. While Dao Ling and the others were cultivating, Yi Xian brought Tianqi to the Celestial Treasure Pavilion. Seeing Yi Xian, the masked old man smiled, Young Master Yi. Yi Xian glanced at the masked old man and said with a smile, "I'm not used to you being so polite to me now. Why don't you treat me coldly?" The masked old man was a little embarrassed. Yi Xian smiled and went straight to the point. "I just came here to buy something from the Celestial Treasure Pavilion." The masked old man hurriedly said, "What is it?" Yi Xian thought for a moment, then took out a list and handed it to the masked old man. The masked old man glanced at it and soon frowned. Yi Xian said, "What's wrong?" The old man said in a deep voice, "Young Master Yi, the things you need are extremely precious." "The price?" Yi Xian smiled. "Don't worry about the money. Just give me the things and give me a discount." The old man smiled. "All right. Young Master Yi, please wait for a moment." Then he turned around and left. Tianqi looked at Yi Xian and hesitated for a moment, then said, "Are you here to buy meat?" Yi Xian's expression froze. Buy meat? Yi Xian was completely speechless. This guy was really a glutton. Yi Xian looked at Tianqi and said seriously, "You know your background now. Am I right?" Tianqi nodded. Yi Xian said softly, "You still have a mother in the Fei Sky clan. She might not be in a good situation now. The Fei Sky clan will not let you go. Under such circumstances, you must be strong, understand?" Tianqi nodded. Yi Xian smiled slightly. "There are some things that we can help you with because you are our brother. However, there are some things that you need to do yourself. Your big brother has been a second generation for so many years, and I've comprehended a principle, and that is to kill your own enemies. Just now, I instantly killed that time immortal. Wasn't it very cool?" Tianqi nodded obediently. Yi Xian roared with laughter. "Do you want to become that strong?" Tianqi hesitated for a moment and said, "Yes. Eating meat and growing your body will make you stronger." Yi Xian smiled. "That was in the past. Follow me now, and I'll let you experience the power of money." Tianqi. Soon, the masked old man appeared before Yi Xian and Tianqi, and he took out a spatial ring and handed it to Yi Xian. Within the spatial ring were all the treasures that Yi Xian needed. Yi Xian smiled. "How many universe veins?" The masked old man hesitated for a moment, and then he said, "It originally required 1,200,000 universe veins, but young Master Yi is an extraordinary VIP of my Immortal Treasure Pavilion, so you can enjoy a discount. After the discount, it will be 800,000 universe veins." 800,000 universe veins. Yi Xian didn't waste his breath, and he just tapped with his finger, causing a spatial ring to descend in front of the masked old man. The masked old man didn't even glance at it before putting it away. Yi Xian smiled. "Aren't you afraid that I'll give you less?" The masked old man grinned. "I trust young Master Ye's character." Yi Xian burst out laughing. He had finally become a man of character. He didn't say anything else, and he just left with Tianqi. Yi Xian brought Tianqi to an expanse of starry sky. He opened his palm, and a scroll appeared within it. He pressed his fingers together, and the scroll entered the space between Tianqi's brows. Bang! In an instant, countless pieces of information surged into Tianqi's mind. This was the cultivation technique that Wang Lin and the others had left for Tianqi. It specialized in cultivating the body, and it was a supreme cultivation technique within the Yang clan. Besides Yi Xian, Wang Lin had left cultivation techniques for Dao Ling and the others, and Tianqi's cultivation technique specialized in cultivating the body. As for Tianqi's cultivation technique, he didn't know if it was formidable, but it cost a terrifying amount of money. The treasures he'd prepared for Tianqi were only the first stage, and it required 3 stages in order to cultivate it to completion. The latter 2 stages required even more treasures and were even more precious. It was truly impossible to cultivate without money. Yi Xian sighed with emotion. He hadn't expected that money would be even more important towards the end of cultivation. Without money, no matter how amazing one's natural talent was, it was nothing. At this moment he suddenly thought of Qin Guan. Actually, he'd suddenly noticed a terrifying problem. If he didn't use the 3 sword strikes, then Qin Guan probably had the strength to unify the universe. This woman was really too rich. If his father didn't make a move, the Yang clan might not be stronger than Qin Guan. After all, he knew that Qingguan had a huge super fleet. Moreover, Qingguan had 3 super trump cards, and this fleet was only one of them. She had 2 more terrifying trump cards. Who knew what her trump cards were? Yi Xian sighed in his heart. If anyone married Qingguan, they would live off a woman until they were old. Thinking of this, Yi Xian couldn't help but chuckle. At this moment, Tianqi suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Yi Xian. I understand. Yi Xian blinked his eyes. Understand? Tianqi nodded. Yi Xian was speechless. He realized that Tianqi's cultivation was like a game to him. In terms of natural talent, Tianqi was the most amazing among the few of them. If his brain was simple, cultivation would be simple. Was his brain too complicated? Without thinking too much, Yi Xian took out the treasures he'd bought earlier and said, eat as much as you can. Tianqi didn't stand on ceremony and took a bite. Yi Xian took out a pile of veins of heaven and placed them beside Tianqi for him to absorb without limit. Gradually, Tianqi's aura started to change. His aura became stronger and stronger. Yi Xian glanced at Tianqi and retreated to the side. He had to protect Tianqi. After all, the Fei Sky clan might come to find trouble with Tianqi at any time. As if thinking of something, Yi Xian turned and looked into the distance. He activated the Xiantian token and the masked elder appeared in front of him. The masked elder bowed slightly. Young Master Yi, what can I do for you? Yi Xian said, I can share the information of Celestial Treasure Pavilion, right? The masked elder nodded. Of course. Yi Xian nodded slightly. From now on, I need to know everything about the Fei Sky clan. The masked elder hesitated for a moment and said, This? Yi Xian smiled. Is it difficult? The masked elder smiled bitterly. No, I don't have the authority. It's not that I'm declining. It's because some of the higher-level intelligence personnel don't listen to me. They only listen to the pavilion master. But don't worry. I'll report this to the pavilion master right now and ask him to authorize it. Yi Xian nodded. All right. The masked elder bowed slightly before turning and leaving. It didn't take long for Yi Xian to receive the masked elder's message. Qingguan had authorized it. Now, he could enjoy all the information of Celestial Treasure Pavilion. He would know everything the Fei Sky clan did at the first possible moment. Just like that, time passed slowly. Tianqi's aura grew stronger and stronger. At this moment, the starry sky around him was gradually boiling. Yi Xian stood guard at the side. Not only was Tianqi's aura growing stronger, but Dao Ling and the other two's auras were growing stronger as well. They were actually showing signs of breaking through. Under normal circumstances, no matter how monstrous they were, it was impossible for them to reach the time immortal level in such a short period of time. However, with the Yang clan's help, it was completely different. Several days later, in the starry sky, Tianqi suddenly opened his eyes and clenched his right fist. Rumble. In an instant, with him as the center, the starry sky within a radius of several million zhang was directly erased. Even the time river was directly erased. On the other side, Yi Xian looked at Tianqi in shock. The power of Tianqi's punch was countless times stronger than before. Even a time immortal expert would find it hard to withstand this punch. Tianqi walked in front of Yi Xian. All right, meet. With that, he stretched out his right hand. Yi Xian fell silent. He seriously suspected that the reason why this guy cultivated so quickly was because he wanted to eat meat. Chapter 2274. Yi Xian wasn't stingy, and he immediately roasted a lamb for Tianqi. Yi Xian couldn't help but smile as he watched Tianqi devour the entire lamb. Meanwhile, Tianqi seemed to have thought of something, and he suddenly tore off a leg of lamb and passed it to Yi Xian. Yi Xian didn't refuse, and he took it and started eating it. After a long time, Yi Xian clapped his hands and said, Let me slash you. I want to see how strong your body is right now. Tianqi nodded. All right. Yi Xian suddenly slashed his sword down on Tianqi's shoulder. Bang! The primeval divine sword shook violently, and Yi Xian was pushed back by over 1 kilometer. However, Tianqi didn't move at all. Yi Xian was first stunned by this scene, and then he was overjoyed. Because Tianqi's body was slightly stronger than he'd expected. It could be said that even though Tianqi's cultivation hadn't reached the lunar immortal realm, his body had completely attained it. Right at this moment, a figure suddenly appeared by Yi Xian's side, and it spoke softly, "Young Master Yi, the members of the Demon Sky clan will be here in around 10 minutes. This figure was an intelligence agent of the Celestial Treasure Pavilion. Yi Xian frowned slightly. "How many of them?" The figure replied, 2 rebirth practitioners and 5-time immortals. Yi Xian nodded slightly. "Can you help me deal with them?" The figure was slightly stunned, and then he hesitated for a moment before he said, "Young Master Yi, you have to get the Pavilion Master's permission." Yi Xian roared with laughter. "I was joking." As he spoke, he glanced at the figure. "You have to get the Pavilion Master's permission. What does that mean?" This meant that the other party was truly capable of killing these 7 super experts. The Celestial Treasure Pavilion is still so mysterious. The figure heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Yi Xian, "Young Master Yi, please take care." As soon as he finished speaking, he left silently. Yi Xian gazed at Tianqi. "Do you want to fight?" Tianqi nodded vigorously. Now that he had just broken through, he felt that his whole body was filled with power. He needed to vent his invincible power. Yi Xian laughed. "I'll arrange it for you right away." As soon as he finished speaking, the starry sky in the distance suddenly trembled violently. Then, 7 terrifying and powerful auras suddenly swept over. Rumble! In an instant, the entire starry sky boiled over. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Why do these experts have to make such a big commotion every time they appear? It's as if they're afraid that others don't know they've come. If it were him, he would sneak in and launch a sneak attack to kill him in one move. Wouldn't that be great? The person in the lead was an old man in a black robe. His gaze fell directly onto Tianqi, and his gaze instantly turned cold when he saw Tianqi. The black-robed old man's expression suddenly became ferocious. "That damned Skywood. He actually lied to us and said you were already dead. That damned fool." Tianqi glanced at the black-robed old man and slowly clenched his right fist. He could already feel the hostility from these people. The black-robed old man suddenly turned to look at Yi Xian. He glared at Yi Xian. "What kind of trash are you? You dare to meddle with my heavenly monster tribe's matters?" Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Idiot. Can't you be more civilized like me?" The black-robed old man's mouth suddenly curled into a ferocious smile. In the next instant he disappeared from his spot. In the distance, Yi Xian was about to draw his sword when Tianqi suddenly appeared in front of him. He flew up and punched. Rumble! As he punched, a terrifying force poured out from his fist. In an instant he and the old man retreated hundreds of thousands of zhang away. After stopping, the old man's eyes were filled with disbelief. "How could it be?" Tianqi slowly clenched his right fist. He glared at the old man, his eyes filled with malice and ferocity. The old man glared at Tianqi. "How could it be? Your body is actually that strong." Tianqi suddenly roared angrily. In the next instant he directly rushed out. Boom! Wherever Tianqi passed, time and space exploded. A terrifying aura shook the sky. A ferocious glint flashed through the old man's eyes. He suddenly let out a furious roar, and then a 30,000-meter-tall demon beast manifestation suddenly appeared behind him. In the next moment, the demon beast roared and smashed its fist down. Rumble! With a loud explosion, Tianqi was sent flying hundreds of thousands of zhang away by this punch. After Tianqi stopped, blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. In the distance, the old man glared at Tianqi. B****, "I didn't kill you that year. Today, I'll do it again." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly soared into the sky. The demonic beast Dharma idol behind him suddenly punched. Rumble! In an instant, the entire sky was destroyed. The power of one punch was enough to destroy the world. In the distance, Yi Xian squinted his eyes. His left hand slowly gripped the sword in his hand, ready to attack. When he saw the incoming punch, Tianqi suddenly roared madly. In the next moment, he leaped up and a demonic beast Dharma idol appeared behind him. He immediately threw a punch at it. Fighting between demonic beasts was very simple. There were no tricks involved. It could be described in one word: head-on. Rumble. A deafening explosion suddenly resounded in the sky. Then, Xianxia and the old man retreated at the same time. However, in the next moment, the two demonic beasts rushed out at the same time. Soon, the entire sky was destroyed bit by bit. This was because the sky could not withstand the power of the two demonic beasts. Yi Xian and the experts of the Demon Sky clan retreated far away. They had no intention of interfering. Obviously, they wanted Xianxia to fight the old man alone. Yi Xian understood this. In the Demon Clan, it was shameful to fight as a group, especially when Xianxia fought the old man. It was a fight between the weak and the strong. If they still wanted to help, the old man would definitely not agree. After all, not everyone was shameless. At this thought, Yi Xian's old face reddened. In the field, the experts of the heavenly monster tribe looked incomparably stern. They were so shocked. They had never thought that Xianxi's power would be so terrifying. If they didn't know better, they would think that he still had the monster god's bloodline. Soon, the experts of the heavenly monster tribe darkened their faces. They couldn't let Xianxia live. Considering what the heavenly monster tribe had done to Xianxia in the past, Xianxia would definitely take revenge in the future. Now that Xianxia was already so monstrous, if he continued to grow, how strong would he be? Yi Xian glanced at the experts of the heavenly monster tribe. He could see the murderous intent in their eyes. Right at this moment, a loud explosion came from deep in the sky. Then Xianxia and the old man retreated crazily. The two of them retreated for more than 100,000 zhang before stopping. After stopping, Yi Xian found that the two of them were shivering. Xianxia was in a worse state because many parts of his body were cracked. Xianxia glared at the old man in the distance, his eyes filled with endless malice. His ferocity had been revealed. The old man stared fixedly at Xianxia as well. At this moment, he was extremely shocked. He hadn't expected that this bastard's strength would be so terrifying. Xianxia suddenly roared furiously. In the next moment, he leaped up and charged at the old man. The starry sky was torn apart. The old man's eyes narrowed slightly as he slowly clenched his right hand. A moment later, he suddenly vanished on the spot. Rumble. An explosion resounded, and then both of them retreated explosively. But in the next moment, Xianxia disregarded his injuries and charged forward once more. Ruthless. Xianxia had grown up in the primeval god and fought demon beasts every single day. Moreover, he ate demon beasts to survive. His ferocity wasn't something an ordinary person could compare to. A wisp of ferocity flashed through the old man's eyes, but he didn't retreat. He was a dignified reincarnator, so how could he retreat when facing Xianxia, who wasn't even at the time immortal realm? Rumble. A terrifying force suddenly erupted in the starry sky. Xianxia and the old man retreated once more, and the old man suddenly roared furiously. Skypiercer complete. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly stretched out his right hand and swung it down. Bang! The starry sky above Xianxia suddenly split apart, and then an enormous palm stretched out and smashed down. Bang! The starry sky in the surroundings started to burn. Xianxia suddenly raised his head, and a wisp of ferocity flashed through his eyes. A moment later, he shot into the sky and smashed his fist towards the palm. Rumble! The enormous palm suddenly exploded apart, and Xianxia fell from the starry sky. Suddenly, the old man roared furiously, "Kill him!" It was obvious that he didn't want to drag things out any longer, because he noticed that he seemed to be unable to kill Xianxia. Xianxi's terror had caused him to feel slightly terrified. When they heard the old man, the other experts of the heavenly demon race charged towards Xianxia, who was falling from the sky. Right at this moment, a wisp of ferocity flashed through Yi Xian's eyes. Who dares? As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly charged forward and slashed with his sword. Bang! In the distance, a time realm expert of the heavenly demon race was directly killed by Yi Xian's sword. Seeing this scene, The black-robed old man and the remaining experts of the heavenly demon race were shocked. Instantly killing a time immortal? The black-robed old man looked at Yi Xian. I underestimated you. Yi Xian chuckled. Old man, you want to gang up on me after fighting for a while? You don't have any morals. The black-robed old man glared at Yi Xian. Do you know my heavenly demon race? Yi Xian nodded. I just found out. The black-robed old man snarled. Since you know, you still dare to meddle in the internal affairs of my race. Are you tired of living? Yi Xian thought for a moment, then smiled. I don't care about the internal affairs of your heavenly demon race. However, Tianqi is my brother. His affairs are my affairs. At the side, Tianqi glanced at Yi Xian but didn't speak. The black-robed old man suddenly grinned fiendishly. Brother? Young man, you don't know how high the sky is. I'm telling you. Today, you and my heavenly demon race have become enemies. Don't worry. I won't kill you right away. I will kill your entire race first. I will let them die one by one in front of you. I will let you experience the feeling of losing your family. Yi Xian thought for a while, then said, Will you kill my father first or my sister first? The black-robed old man grinned fiendishly. Of course, together. Yi Xian pondered for a while, then said, You are fiercer than Tianyi. Tianyi, P.S. Today, I have 3 chapters. I want to be arrogant. Don't call me weak. It's useless. With my current thick skin, I don't feel anything when you call me weak. Every time I see you call me weak, I don't feel anything. That's right, my skin is thick. If you have the guts, come to Guiyang and beat me. It was impossible to defeat a shameless person with words. I'm shameless. I'm shameless. No matter what, I'm shameless. 7017K. Chapter 2275. Needless to say, Yi Xian felt a headache coming on. Why did those super forces like to exterminate an entire clan? Did they make themselves look awesome when they said they would exterminate an entire clan? A truly ruthless person would never speak ruthlessly. For example, Qing could destroy the entire universe if he was displeased. Suddenly, the black-robed old man said, Do you dare to introduce yourself? Yi Xian glanced at the black-robed old man and said, Yang clan. My father is Sword Master Yang Yi. He likes to wear a green robe. It's easy to recognize him. Yang clan. The black-robed old man frowned slightly because he had never heard of it. Yi Xian smiled and said, You've never heard of it, right? The black-robed old man glanced at Yi Xian and said, I've never heard of it. Where's the Yang clan? Yi Xian kept silent. Where's the Yang clan? He really didn't know. He was ashamed. He was the young master of the Yang clan, but he didn't know where the Yang clan was. It was really ridiculous. At this moment, the black-robed old man mocked. What? You don't dare to say it? Yi Xian said seriously, It's not that I don't want to say it. I really don't know. The mocking smile on the black-robed old man's face widened. Do you think I'll believe you? Yi Xian was speechless. What the hell? I can't be an honest man, can I? At this moment, a middle-aged man by the black-robed old man's side said in a low voice, This kid isn't simple. We can't underestimate him. The black-robed old man kept silent. He knew that Yi Xian wasn't simple. He was so young but had such terrifying strength. How could he be an ordinary person? After all, the higher one cultivated, the more resources they needed. Ordinary independent cultivators couldn't reach this level. Even if they could, they would be old monsters that had lived for tens of thousands of years. They had to endure and endure. But Yi Xian was too young. He wouldn't believe that such a person didn't have a powerful force behind him. Of course, he wasn't afraid. Heavenly Monster Tribe had never been afraid of anyone. Thinking of this, the black-robed old man looked at Yi Xian. Tiansun, you hold him back. The rest of you, kill this bastard with me. The middle-aged man by the black-robed old man's side nodded slightly. He gazed at Yi Xian and was about to attack. Suddenly, numerous powerful auras appeared here, and then Dao Ling and the others appeared here. When Yi Xian saw Dao Ling and the others, he was stunned, because he discovered that Dao Ling and the others had all become time immortals. Time immortal. Yi Xian was incomparably shocked. He looked at Dao Ling, who was the leader, and asked in astonishment, "You all reached the time immortal stage so quickly?" Dao Ling was a little displeased. "Do you think we're all idiots in your heart?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "No, I'm just a little shocked." "You guys are a little too fast," Dao Ling laughed. "I told you that you would be shocked." "Ha," Yi Xian nodded slightly. "I'm afraid I can't defeat you with one strike now. I'll need 2 strikes. Dao Ling and the others' expressions froze. Seeing Dao Ling and the others, the black-robed old man frowned slightly. "For you?" Dao Ling smiled. "Brothers abandoned by heaven." The black-robed old man was so angry that he laughed. "Interesting. Since when does a nobody dare to interfere with the internal affairs of my heavenly monster tribe?" Dao Ling laughed. "Old man, cut the crap. Let's fight." As he spoke, he charged towards the black-robed old man. As he charged, a terrifying force suddenly swept out of Dao Ling's body. Then, a Dharma form appeared behind Dao Ling. This Dharma form was hundreds of thousands of zhang long. It really spanned across the galaxy and was incomparably huge. Dao Ling grinned. "Old man, eat my fist." As he spoke, he punched out fiercely. Behind him, the Dharma form suddenly punched out. In an instant, the entire starry sky was destroyed. A terrifying force swept across the entire starry sky. It was extremely terrifying. Seeing the incoming punch, the black-robed old man's expression instantly turned solemn. Another monstrous genius had arrived. He didn't dare to be careless. Immediately he leaped up. Behind him, the virtual image of the demonic beast suddenly appeared. The next moment, he roared angrily and directly charged towards Dao Ling. Rumble! In the starry sky, 2 terrifying forces collided. In an instant, an even more powerful force exploded in the starry sky. In an instant, the starry sky within a radius of millions of zhang boiled and burned. Then it was annihilated. Yi Xian's mind flickered. A wave of sword aura directly blocked the shockwaves of the 2's forces. At this moment, Shi Tian walked to Yi Xian's side. He looked at the black-robed old man and the others in the distance. "Heavenly monster tribes still won't let Heaven Chi go?" Yi Xian nodded. A cold light flashed in Shi Tian's eyes, but he didn't speak. In the distance, Dao Ling and the black-robed old man fought fiercely. The black-robed old man couldn't suppress Dao Ling. Of course, Dao Ling couldn't do anything to the black-robed old man either. This was because the black-robed old man's physical body was extremely strong. Dao Ling couldn't break his defense at all. Yi Xian glanced at the 2 of them. He had a rough understanding of the reincarnated walker's strength. If it were him, he wouldn't be able to do anything to the black-robed old man if he didn't use slash into nothingness. In fact, he missed the green profound sword. If he had the green profound sword in his hand, coupled with his current slash into nothingness, he was confident that he could kill the black-robed old man with 1 slash. What a pity! After fighting for a while, the heavenly monster tribe's experts' faces gradually turned ugly. This was because they realized that the strength of the few people in front of them had far exceeded their expectations. At this moment, the middle-aged man in the lead, Tiansun, suddenly said, "Call for help." Call for help. He had already analyzed the situation. With their current strength, they couldn't do anything to the few people in front of them. Moreover, he realized that these young people were a little fearless. They knew about the heavenly monster tribe, but they weren't afraid of them. It was terrifying to think about it. Hearing Tiansun's words, an expert of the heavenly monster tribe beside him took out a token. The token flew up into the sky and was about to enter the starry sky. Suddenly, a ray of sword light slashed the token. Bang! The token was directly slashed into pieces. Tiansun turned to look at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled faintly. "You want to call for help?" Tiansun looked at Yi Xian. "What? Are you afraid?" Yi Xian shook his head. "I'm not afraid, but why should I ask you to call for help?" As he spoke, he suddenly said, "Brothers, let's beat them up." As soon as he finished speaking, he charged towards Tiansun. Tiansun's face instantly turned gloomy when he saw Yi Xian attack. Are all the young people nowadays so arrogant? Tian Sun didn't waste his breath and vanished on the spot. Bang! A strand of terrifying force swept through the surroundings. Pure physical strength. In the distance, Yi Xian's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. He had just broken through, so he wanted to fight to his heart's content. When Yi Xian and Tian Sun fought, Junxia and Shitian, who stood by his side, charged towards the 4-time immortals. As soon as they fought, Junxia and Shitian completely suppressed the experts of the heavenly demon race. No, it should be called beating them up. They were invincible amongst their peers. Both Junxia and Shitian were monstrous geniuses amongst monstrous geniuses. Coupled with the help of old Jun and the others, ordinary time immortals weren't a match for them after they became time immortals. Seeing that his time immortal experts were being suppressed, Tian Sun, who was fighting against Yi Xian, had an ugly expression on his face. Yi Xian and the others might not be able to deal with the 2 samsara walkers, but the time immortal experts they had brought with them were clearly not a match for Yi Xian and the others. It wouldn't be long before these time immortals would be killed. They weren't a match for them at all. When he thought up to here, Tian Sun didn't have the heart to continue fighting. His figure shook and he retreated over 30 kilometers away. He just pulled away from Yi Xian when he immediately took out a token and crushed it. Bang! A mysterious force vanished in the depths of the boundless starry sky. Yi Xian glanced at the depths of the starry sky and fell silent. These people really don't care about martial virtue. They call for help at the slightest provocation. How shameless! Tian Sun stared coldly at Yi Xian. You'll pay for what you've done today. Yi Xian roared with laughter. Cut the crap. Let's fight. As soon as he finished speaking, he charged towards Tian Sun. A strand of sword light suddenly tore through the battlefield. A wisp of viciousness flashed through Tian Sun's eyes. He suddenly charged forward and punched at Yi Xian. This punch caused the space before him to cave in and be obliterated. Rumble! Yi Xian was blasted over 30 kilometers away by this terrifying force. Tian Sun was just about to follow up with another attack when numerous strands of sword light suddenly appeared around him. Tian Sun's eyes narrowed slightly, and he suddenly swept his right hand horizontally. Rumble! Those strands of sword light were blasted into pieces. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly appeared above Tian Sun, and then a sword slashed down. The sky was torn apart. Tian Sun raised his head swiftly and blocked with his arms. Rumble! An expanse of sword light was blasted apart, and Tian Sun was blasted over 30 kilometers away. As soon as he stopped, Yi Xian appeared above him once more, and then he slashed down with his sword once more. Tian Sun suddenly roared furiously and stomped his right foot. Bang! Everywhere his foot landed, space collapsed and was obliterated. On the other hand, Tian Sun shot into the sky and collided with Yi Xian's terrifying sword strike. Rumble! An expanse of sword light was blasted apart in the depths of the starry sky, and then Yi Xian and Tian Sun retreated repeatedly, and they retreated for over 100 kilometers. After Tian Sun stopped, he glanced at his body. His body was densely covered in scars, and they'd even broken his skin, but his bones weren't injured. Tian Sun's face instantly turned unsightly when he saw this. He looked at Yi Xian with a vicious look in his eyes. Die! As soon as he finished speaking, he clenched his right hand and was about to attack. However, Yi Xian suddenly vanished on the spot. However, his target wasn't Tian Sun, but the black-robed old man who was fighting Dao Ling. Junxia and Shitian suddenly gave up on the time immortals and charged at the black-robed old man. In an instant, it became 5 against 1. Rumble! The black-robed old man didn't even have time to react before he was blasted away. He flew for over 100 kilometers, and as soon as he stopped, his body was blasted apart. The black-robed old man was slightly stunned. He looked at Yi Xian and the others, and his voice trembled. What the fuck is wrong with all of you? 7017K. Chapter 2276. Needless to say, he was completely stunned. He hadn't expected that Yi Xian and the others would suddenly besiege him together. It's too absurd. How can it be played like this? It wasn't just the black-robed old man, even Tian Sun and the others were bewildered. They were fighting just fine, so why had Yi Xian and the others suddenly changed targets? Yi Xian glanced at the black-robed old man and said, "Let's fight on our own." As soon as he finished speaking, he charged towards Tian Sun while Tian and Xia charged towards the other time immortals instead. The black-robed old man's expression instantly became unsightly when he witnessed this scene. What the hell? Meanwhile, Dao Ling spoke abruptly, "Come, let's continue." As soon as he finished speaking, he charged towards the black-robed old man. On the other hand, Tian Qi was recuperating. His injuries from the battle with the black-robed old man weren't light. The black-robed old man and Dao Ling entered into battle once more. But this time, the black-robed old man was slightly on the verge of collapse. Because he had no choice but to divert a portion of his energy to guard against Yi Xian and the others. He was really afraid that Yi Xian and the others would suddenly change targets while they were fighting. Because he was absent-minded and wasn't able to concentrate, Dao Ling was actually gradually gaining the upper hand. On the other side, Yi Xian was gradually gaining the upper hand in the battle with Tian Sun. Up until now, he still hadn't executed Sever the Void. After he broke through, he wanted to release himself. Battle was the best way to do that. Tian Sun had gradually noticed Yi Xian's intentions, but he couldn't do anything about it. Moreover, he was able to sense that Yi Xian hadn't utilized his full strength. This young man still has a trump card. At this moment, he suddenly felt slightly uneasy in his heart. Who exactly is this young man? He wasn't as arrogant as the black-robed old man and didn't think that the heavenly demon race was invincible in the entire universe. The heavenly demon race was very strong indeed, but they were definitely not invincible in the entire universe. He was worried that the heavenly demon race had bitten off more than they could chew. Rumble. Right at this moment, an expanse of sword light shattered, and Tian Sun was blasted over 10 kilometers away by a single strike from Yi Xian. Tian Sun had just stopped when a few hundred rays of sword light suddenly and mysteriously appeared around him. Sever the future. These hundreds of swords appeared in different space-time. Tian Sun's eyes narrowed slightly. He was shocked in his heart and didn't dare to be careless. He clenched his fists tightly, squatted down, and roared furiously as a terrifying force swept out from his body. Rumble. In an instant, countless sword lights were shattered and annihilated. After a short moment, the sword light dispersed and Tian Sun appeared within Yi Xian's field of vision. At this moment, Tian Sun's entire body was covered in dense sword scars, and every single one of them was extremely deep. Even though Tian Sun's physical body wasn't completely destroyed, Tian Sun's injuries were not light. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly turned to look at the black-robed old man in the distance. The black-robed old man's expression changed drastically when he noticed this. He ignored Dao Ling and turned to look at Yi Xian. He said angrily, "What are you looking at?" Yi Xian was speechless. The black-robed old man looked at Yi Xian as if Yi Xian was the person who killed his mother. Yi Xian was slightly speechless. This old man is a reincarnator realm expert at any rate. Why is he acting like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow? Right at this moment, numerous shrill cries resounded from the side. Yi Xian turned to look and saw that Wuxia and Xianxia had killed a few time immortals from the heavenly demon race. The black-robed old man and Tian Sun's expressions instantly became unsightly when they witnessed this scene. Are we going to be ganged up on now? Yi Xian suddenly smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. We won't gang up on you." The black-robed old man instantly heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. This young man still has some martial virtue. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly smiled and said, "Of course, that's impossible." As he spoke, the three of them charged towards the black-robed old man. On the other hand, Tian Qi, who'd recovered from his injuries, was in charge of keeping Tian Sun busy. The black-robed old man's expression instantly changed violently when he saw Yi Xian and the others charge towards him. He didn't hesitate to turn around and vanish into the starry sky. Flee. He decisively chose to flee. Backbone? Dignity? Nonsense. All of that was nonsense. Survival was the most important thing. He was naturally unafraid of any one of Yi Xian's group of 5 in a one-on-one battle. But he would definitely be unable to resist a group attack. So, he decisively chose to flee. Yi Xian and the others were stunned when they saw the black-robed old man flee. The old man actually fled just like that? What the hell? As if they'd thought of something, Yi Xian and the others turned to look at Tian Sun. Tian Sun's expression changed violently, and he intended to flee. Meanwhile, Yi Xian and the others had charged over to his side. A group attack. Rumble. Rumble. In next to no time, rumbling resounded throughout the surroundings. Just like that, the battle continued for around 2 hours before the starry sky finally calmed down. At this moment, Tian Sun's body had been shattered, and his soul was dim. He wasn't completely dead, but he wasn't far from it. Tian Sun suddenly roared, "Tian Meng!" His voice was filled with endless anger and unwillingness. Tian Meng was the old man who had fled just now. Actually, if the old man hadn't fled, with their strength, they could have dealt with Yi Xian's group for a while and waited for the Heavenly Monster Tribe's experts to arrive. But he didn't expect that Tian Meng would betray his teammates. He was utterly devoid of conscience. He didn't hate Yi Xian's group because they were enemies. It was normal for them to fight to the death. However, Tian Meng betrayed his teammates. He was truly devoid of conscience. Tian Sun vanished from the scene with boundless unwillingness. Yi Xian looked into the distance and felt it was ridiculous that he didn't leave the black-robed old man alive. He knew that there weren't many reincarnated walkers in the Heavenly Monster Tribe. If he killed one, there would be one less. Unfortunately, the old man had run away. At this moment, Shi Tian walked to Yi Xian. "Brother Yi, they will come back. And the next time they come, it won't be just 1 or 2 reincarnated walkers." Yi Xian nodded. This time, the Heavenly Monster Tribe had suffered a big loss. If the other side still underestimated them, they would be too stupid. Thus, the next time the Heavenly Monster Tribe came, it wouldn't be just 1 reincarnated walker. It might be a super expert who was even stronger than the reincarnated walkers. Yi Xian looked at them and then asked, "Did you get anything from the battle?" Dao Ling nodded. "Big harvest." Yi Xian smiled. "Tell me about it." Dao Ling kept silent for a while and then said, "I think the gap between them and Senior June is too big. I even suspect that they aren't real reincarnated walkers." Shi Tian nodded. "Indeed. If we had a battle with Senior June, I wouldn't have any chance of winning. No, we would be beaten up. But we could fight evenly with Tian Sun's group. We could even kill them." Then he shook his head. "The gap isn't just big. Senior June." Yi Xian kept silent. He hadn't fought with Senior June, but he could feel his power. The gap between the reincarnated walkers of the Heavenly Monster Tribe and Senior June's group was really big. At this moment, Dao Ling suddenly said, "Brother Yi, they came to attack us. Why didn't they investigate us first?" "Of course, Shi Tian, Xianxia, and I have nothing to investigate. But you're different. You're the heir of the Yang tribe." Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. "The Yang tribe? Let alone outsiders, I don't know much about my own family." Dao Ling frowned. "Why?" Yi Xian said seriously, "Do you think I relied on my family to get to where I am today? I relied on my own efforts to get to where I am today. Do you understand?" Dao Ling's eyes widened. "Brother Yi, don't you blush when you talk like that?" Yi Xian was speechless. Shi Tian and Xianxia shook their heads and smiled. They knew how thick Yi Xian's skin was. Brother Ye's skin was invincible in this world. At this moment, Dao Ling suddenly said, "No matter what, we are now against the Heavenly Monster Tribe. They will definitely take revenge on us." Yi Xian nodded slightly. As he was about to say something, Tian Qi suddenly said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Yi Xian's group looked at Tian Qi. Tian Qi lowered his head slightly. He didn't eat the meat anymore. He knew that his tribe was targeting them because of him. Dao Ling glared at Tian Qi. "What do you mean sorry? We're on the same side." "Don't say that." Tian Qi hesitated for a while and then handed the meat he had eaten to Dao Ling. Dao Ling's face darkened. "Brother, you ate this." Hearing that, Yi Xian's group burst into laughter. Dao Ling also shook his head and laughed. At this moment, Shi Tian suddenly said, "Brother Yi, how did the heavenly monster tribe know about Tianqi's existence?" Hearing that, Yi Xian's face turned cold. "Of course, someone informed them." Shi Tian was silent for a while and said, "The one in the Immortal mausoleum?" Yi Xian nodded. "It should be him. It seems like he wants to play dirty." Then he shook his head slightly. "Let's not care about him first. Everyone should have gained a lot from the battle just now. Now we can absorb what we have gained." Shi Tian nodded. But everyone started to cultivate. Meanwhile, Yi Xian went to the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. He sat in the room while the masked elder stood respectfully beside him. The masked elder was reporting something to Yi Xian. After a while, Yi Xian said calmly, "Have they started to investigate us?" The masked elder nodded. However, with their current strength, they shouldn't be able to investigate young Master Ye's background. Yi Xian was puzzled. The masked elder smiled bitterly. "Because even we can't investigate young Master Ye's family. Young Master Yi, your family is very mysterious. I'm afraid only the pavilion master knows the details." Yi Xian smiled. "Let alone you guys, I don't even know myself." The masked elder nodded slightly. "So, they might continue to target young Master Ye's group." Yi Xian suddenly said, "If I tell them that the Yang tribe is very strong, will they believe me?" The masked elder shook his head. Yi Xian was puzzled. The masked elder hesitated for a while and said, "Young Master Yi, forgive me for being blunt, but you give off the impression that you are the kind of person who likes to brag." Yi Xian was speechless. P.S. There are 2 updates today. I don't dare to talk too much. Explode on the 15th. As for how much do you think is appropriate? The kind that would explode to the point where they would rather eat instant noodles and vote for me. 7017K. Chapter 2277. Yi Xian was speechless when he heard what the masked old man said. Damn it. How can this old man speak like that? What does he mean by "I like to brag"? The masked old man smiled and said, "Young Master Yi, what do you plan to do next?" Yi Xian smiled. "What else can I plan to do?" The masked old man was about to speak when a figure appeared beside him. The figure bowed and said, "President, the ancient demon king of the Fei Sky clan is here to visit you." Ancient demon king. Yi Xian squinted his eyes. He knew that this was one of the 4 great demon kings of the Fei Sky clan. With the help of the Celestial Treasure Pavilion, he knew the overall strength of the Fei Sky clan and some information about the experts. The masked old man hesitated for a while and looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled. "Let's go. I'll go with you." The masked old man nodded. "Okay." The Celestial Treasure Pavilion had never been involved in any feud with the mortal world. That was because the Celestial Treasure Pavilion was a businessman. However, it didn't mean that the Celestial Treasure Pavilion didn't have a stance. Between Yi Xian and the Fei Sky clan, the Celestial Treasure Pavilion would naturally choose Yi Xian. What a joke! Not to mention the Yang clan behind Yi Xian, even Yi Xian had a special relationship with the Pavilion Master. It might be fine if the Pavilion Master didn't help Yi Xian. However, if the Pavilion Master helped someone else, Yi Xian would definitely die a horrible death. After a while, the masked old man and Yi Xian arrived at a huge hall. A middle-aged man was waiting for them in the hall. The middle-aged man was tall and wore a simple robe. He had a dignified look on his face. Ancient Demon King. One of the 4 great demon kings of the Fei Sky clan. The Ancient Demon King looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "You must be young Master Yi." Yi Xian smiled. "Ancient Demon King, I've heard a lot about you." Ancient Demon King was stunned and smiled. "Young Master Yi knows me?" Yi Xian shook his head. "Not really." Ancient Demon King looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "Then why did you say, 'I've heard a lot about you'?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "It's just polite words. Don't take it seriously." Ancient Demon King was stunned and then laughed. "Young Master Yi is really interesting." As he spoke, he glanced at the masked old man and smiled. Looks like the relationship between young Master Yi and the Immortal Treasure Pavilion isn't ordinary. Yi Xian smiled. I'm the same as you, sir. I'm also a guest of Celestial Treasure Pavilion. Ancient Demon King picked up the teacup in front of him and took a sip. Then he smiled and said, Young Master Yi, I wanted to find you, but I didn't expect to meet you here. Then I'll get straight to the point. The young man beside young Master Yi, Xianxia, is from my Devil Sky tribe. I want to take him away. Yi Xian sat at the side and drank the tea in one gulp. Then he smiled and said, Xianxia is my brother. Ancient Demon King looked at Yi Xian and smiled. Nothing to talk about? Yi Xian smiled. Nothing to talk about. Ancient Demon King nodded and stood up to leave. When he reached the door, he suddenly smiled and said, Young Master Yi, there are many decisions in a person's life, and each decision will determine his future. Some decisions can make you successful, and some will make you doomed. Then, he turned to look at Yi Xian and smiled. Young Master Yi, take care. Then, he turned and disappeared. In the palace, Yi Xian looked at the masked old man and asked, Is he threatening me? The masked old man nodded. Obviously. Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. Kill him. As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed out. Outside the palace, there was a sword chime. In the palace, the masked old man was stunned. Is he really going to kill him? Outside Celestial Treasure Pavilion, Yi Xian forced Ancient Demon King to stop with his sword. Ancient Demon King looked at Yi Xian calmly. Yi Xian smiled and said, I don't like to threaten people. Then he disappeared and slashed at Ancient Demon King with his sword. Ancient Demon King smiled. Since you want to die so much, I will fulfill your wish. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared and punched at Yi Xian. As soon as the punch was thrown out, time and space were torn apart. A dreadful force swept towards Yi Xian. Yi Xian sneered. He suddenly drew his sword and slashed. The sword light tore everything. Rumble. As the sword aura exploded, Yi Xian retreated. In the process of retreating, hundreds of sword auras suddenly engulfed the Ancient Demon King. Rumble. At this moment, a fist mark rushed out from the sword light and headed towards Yi Xian. From afar, Yi Xian moved his mind and the sword in his hand flew out. Boom! The fist mark was shattered by Yi Xian's sword. In the starry sky, Yi Xian and Ancient Demon King faced each other. Ancient Demon King looked at Yi Xian and smiled. Extraordinary indeed. Yi Xian smiled. Ancient Demon King, you are a great Demon Sky clan. Can't you accept the heaven's abandonment? Ancient Demon King fell silent for a while and said, If he still has the demon god's bloodline, I will protect him even if I have to risk my life. It's a pity that he no longer has the demon god's bloodline. If he is an ordinary person, I can turn a blind eye to it. It's a pity that he is not ordinary. Even without the help of his family, he could reach such a level. Then he shook his head. I'm afraid he will hold a grudge and take revenge on our Demon Sky clan in the future. Yi Xian fell silent. He knew that after Tianqi's demon god's bloodline was taken away, he was worthless to the Demon Sky clan. Not only was he worthless, but he was also a threat. Yi Xian shook his head. If that's the case, there's no need to say more. Let's fight. Ancient Demon King nodded. For my family, you for my brother. There's no need to say more. Let's fight. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly dashed forward and threw a punch at Yi Xian. The power of the punch was terrifying. The moment the punch was thrown, countless starlights in the starry sky were extinguished. Then, the surrounding starry sky started to collapse inch by inch. At the same time, a terrifying fist intent directly shrouded Yi Xian in the distance. Under the shroud of this fist intent, Yi Xian immediately felt an oppressive feeling as if a mountain was pressing down on him. Facing the Ancient Demon King, Yi Xian did not dare to be careless. He did not know what cultivation realm the Ancient Demon King was in. However, based on the current situation, the Ancient Demon King's strength was much stronger than the heaven-seeking demonic beast. Yi Xian closed his eyes slowly. When the fist arrived in front of him, he suddenly opened his eyes and slashed with his sword. slash into nothingness. When he slashed with his sword, in front of Yi Xian, the terrifying fist power suddenly disappeared as though it had never appeared. The ancient demon king, who was in front of Yi Xian, had a drastic change in his expression. He raised his arms to block the attack. Rumble! A sword radiance suddenly exploded. Immediately after, the ancient demon king retreated hundreds of thousands of feet. As soon as he stopped, his arms were crushed. Not only that, but the space-time in front of him and Yi Xian was forcefully erased. The ancient demon king looked at Yi Xian, who was standing with a sword in the distance. He could not believe his eyes. What sword technique is that? Yi Xian smiled. I created it myself. Slash into nothingness. The ancient demon king stared at Yi Xian. You did not create it yourself. Yi Xian did not understand. Why not? The ancient demon king stared at Yi Xian and did not speak. Yi Xian laughed. I did not create it. My father created it. Of course, what's the difference between what he created and what I created? What my father created is mine. What's mine is still mine. The green shirt man was speechless. The ancient demon king looked at Yi Xian. You are such a filial son. Yi Xian smiled. Don't talk nonsense. Come on, ancient demon king. Let's fight again. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly disappeared on the spot. The sword slashed at the ancient demon king. In the distance, the ancient demon king's eyes flashed with coldness. The next moment, his body shook violently. Then a demon beast appeared. His real body. The ancient demon king's real body was like a giant ape. He had 2 arms and 2 legs. He was 100 zhang tall. His eyes were like lanterns. His eyes were filled with evil and ferocious light. It was as if he wanted to devour the universe. It was terrifying. His real body. Apparently, he no longer had the nerve to be careless or underestimate Yi Xian's sword attack. He showed his true form right away. The ancient demon king shouted angrily and punched. Boom! The moment he punched out, the entire universe shook violently, as if there was a huge earthquake. Facing this terrifying punch, Yi Xian did not dare to be careless. He slashed with his sword. Slash into nothingness. The man and the demon beast chose to fight head-on. Boom! Suddenly, a wave of sword light erupted in the starry sky like a volcanic eruption. Then Yi Xian and the ancient demon king retreated at the same time. Yi Xian retreated hundreds of thousands of feet. As soon as he stopped, he spat out a mouthful of blood essence. The immemorial divine sword in his hand had completely cracked. Slash into nothingness was powerful. However, his sword could not withstand it. Yi Xian looked at the immemorial celestial sword in his hand and sighed. Compared to the cyan profound sword, there was still a big difference. In the distance, the ancient demon king was also badly injured. His right arm was cut off. Not only that, his whole body was cracked. Blood was flowing out. Facing Yi Xian's terrifying sword, even his strong body could not withstand it. The ancient demon king looked at Yi Xian in the distance. He was shocked. The power of Yi Xian's sword was beyond his expectation. He did not expect that he could not withstand Yi Xian's sword even after returning to his original body. One should know that his physical body had reached the reincarnation walker realm. A physical body at this level was extremely terrifying. It was almost invincible among those at the same level. But Yi Xian, who was not even a time immortal, had broken his physical body with one sword technique. This man was so terrifying. The ancient demon king stared at Yi Xian. At this moment he felt uneasy. Yi Xian's monstrous talent was beyond his expectation. An ordinary force could not nurture such a monstrous talent. Such a monstrous talent might have a powerful force behind him. In the distance, Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at the ancient demon king and was about to attack again. At this moment, a message entered his mind. The next moment, Yi Xian was furious. This idiot! 7017K. Chapter 2278. Yi Xian was furious. He had just received news that Tianqi had gone to the Monster Sky clan alone. Obviously, Tianqi did not want to implicate them. Yi Xian did not care about the ancient demon king. He turned and disappeared into the horizon. Not far away, the ancient demon king frowned. In the next moment he seemed to have received some news and disappeared on the spot. In the starry sky, Yi Xian found Dao Ling, Shitian, and Junxia. Dao Ling said, "We did not expect him to go to the Monster Sky clan alone." After a moment of silence, Yi Xian said, "Let's go to the Monster Sky clan." After saying that, the brothers disappeared into the starry sky. On the way, Dao Ling's face was ugly. "Brother Yi, heaven has abandoned him." Yi Xian looked into the starry sky and said softly, "I hope we can make it in time." After saying that, the brothers suddenly sped up. Before long, they arrived at the Monster Sky Sacred Territory. The Monster Sky Sacred Territory was the lair of the Monster Sky clan. As soon as they entered the Monster Sky Sacred Territory, Yi Xian and the others were locked on by several terrifying divine senses. The aura of a reincarnation walker. Yi Xian looked into the starry sky coldly. In the next moment, he opened his palm and the sword in his hand suddenly flew out. Pissed! The sword radiance tore the sky apart and slashed into the starry sky in the distance. Boom! Suddenly, a sword radiance exploded in the distant starry sky. Then, a fist mark streaked across the starry sky and headed straight for Yi Xian and the others. A vicious glint flashed in Yi Xian's eyes. He gently pushed with his thumb. Buzz! A sword suddenly flew out from the scabbard. Rumble! The fist mark was shattered by the sword. At this moment, a middle-aged man appeared in front of Yi Xian and the others. The middle-aged man stared at Yi Xian coldly. "You are Yi Xian?" Yi Xian's expression was calm. "Where is Tianqi?" A wisp of ridicule appeared on the corners of the middle-aged man's mouth. "You can't even protect yourself, yet you still care about that bastard?" Yi Xian glared at the middle-aged man. "You keep saying that Tianqi is a bastard. Damn it. What about the Fey celestial race? Bastard? Or a son of a bitch?" The middle-aged man flew into a rage. "How dare you insult the Fey Sky clan? You?" At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared. Boom! A wave of sword light suddenly slashed at the middle-aged man. Rumble! As the sword light shattered, the middle-aged man instantly retreated hundreds of thousands of feet. As soon as he stopped, his body split open and blood sprayed everywhere. Meanwhile, another ray of sword light slashed over. The middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and a terrifying force swept out from his body. Rumble! The sword light shattered, and the middle-aged man was killed. Because this sword slashed through the void. Impudent! At this moment, an angry roar suddenly rang out from the depths of the starry sky. Then, a terrifying aura swept over and enveloped Yi Xian and the others. Yi Xian's expression was calm. It was so calm that it was terrifying. An old man appeared in front of Yi Xian and the others. The old man was one of the 4 great monster kings of the Fey Sky clan, the Wood Monster King. The Wood Monster King glared at Yi Xian. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly threw a punch. A terrifying golden fist radiance swept out like a volcanic eruption and headed straight for Yi Xian. In the distance, Yi Xian's expression was calm. When the fist radiance arrived in front of him, he suddenly slashed out with his sword. Pissed! In an instant, the golden fist radiance suddenly disappeared without a trace, slashing through the void. Seeing this, the Wood Monster King's eyes widened. What kind of sword is that?" Before the Wood Monster King could finish speaking, Yi Xian suddenly slashed out with his sword. The Wood Monster King's expression changed drastically. Facing Yi Xian's terrifying sword, he did not dare to take it head-on. His body trembled and he retreated thousands of feet away. The position where he was originally standing was directly erased by Yi Xian's sword. Even the river of time could not block this slashing through the void. The Wood Monster King looked at Yi Xian with a hint of fear in his eyes. Yi Xian's face was expressionless. "Where is Tianqi?" The Wood Monster King stared at Yi Xian. "Who the hell are you?" Yi Xian suddenly said fiercely, I asked you to answer, not ask. As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed forward and slashed out with his sword. The Wood Monster King was shocked. Because Yi Xian's speed was too fast, he could not dodge at all. Therefore, he could only take it head-on. He raised his hands and returned to his original form. A huge demonic beast appeared in the field. This huge demonic beast smashed its fist down to meet Yi Xian's sword. Rumble! An expanse of swords exploded apart, and the enormous demon beast retreated repeatedly. As he retreated, numerous sword howls suddenly resounded, and it didn't take long for a few hundred rays of light to drown the demon king beneath them. Boom! 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 Sword rays exploded around the Wood Monster King. In a few breaths, the Wood Monster King retreated hundreds of thousands of feet away. At this moment, an angry roar suddenly resounded from the sword rays. Then, a huge fist suddenly tore the sword rays apart and shook the heavens and earth. When the Wood Monster King shattered the sword rays, Dao Ling and the others discovered that there were hundreds of blood-red sword marks around the Wood Monster King's body. The Wood Monster King stared angrily at Yi Xian in the distance. His huge eyes were like lanterns. His eyes were filled with anger and murderous intent. Yi Xian suddenly rushed forward and slashed out with his sword. Slash into nothingness. The Wood Demon King's pupils constricted when it saw Yi Xian's terrifying sword strike, and it swiftly blocked with its arms. Rumble! The sword rays were shattered, and so was the Wood Monster King's body. After destroying the Wood Monster King's body, Yi Xian was about to follow up and destroy his soul. At this moment, a shadow suddenly rushed in front of him. Then, a fist with a terrifying force went straight for his head. Yi Xian turned around and slashed down with his sword. Rumble! Yi Xian was sent flying thousands of feet away by the fist. After stopping, Yi Xian looked into the distance. The person who attacked was the ancient demon king who had just returned. The ancient demon king looked at Yi Xian calmly, but he was shocked. Yi Xian's sword skill was too terrifying. Even the ancient demon king did not dare to take it head-on. The ancient demon king suppressed his shock and said in a deep voice, "Yi Xian, this is the Demon Sky clan." His voice was filled with undisguised murderous intent and anger. Yi Xian looked at the ancient demon king and said, "Ask Xianxia to come out." The ancient demon king stared at Yi Xian and said, "What if I say no?" Yi Xian looked calm. The next moment he suddenly disappeared. The ancient demon king's pupils shrank because Yi Xian's sword slashed into nothingness again. He did not dare to take it head-on. He immediately moved back and distanced himself from Yi Xian. As soon as he moved back, the starry sky in front of him was erased by Yi Xian's sword. The ancient demon king was fearful. Yi Xian's sword skill was too terrifying. Yi Xian closed his eyes slowly. He was trying to sense Xianxia. Soon, his face turned gloomy because he realized he could not sense Xianxia at all. Did something happen? Yi Xian could not help but frown at the thought. At this moment, the ancient demon king suddenly said, "Yi Xian." Yi Xian suddenly looked at the ancient demon king and said, "Nonsense. What nonsense are you talking to me about? I am here to fight, not to chat with you." As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot. One sword slashed into nothingness. Seeing this, the ancient demon king's pupils shrank. He quickly retreated tens of thousands of feet away and shouted angrily, "Is that all you know?" Yi Xian looked at the ancient demon king and said, "It's none of your business." The ancient demon king stared at Yi Xian with an extremely unsightly expression. He realized that this was Yi Xian's most terrifying move. He was confident that he could defeat Yi Xian without using this sword skill. However, the problem was that once Yi Xian used this move, he would not dare to go head-on against Yi Xian even if he returned to his original form. This move was too terrifying. In the distance, Yi Xian opened his palm, and the primordial divine sword appeared in his hand. In the next moment, a terrifying force surged out from his body. He did not want to drag this on any longer. The longer he dragged this on, the more dangerous Xianxia would be. Dao Ling and the others clenched their fists and were prepared to attack. Although they were not confident in going head-on against the entire Monster Sky race, they did not retreat. In the distance, the ancient demon king suddenly mocked. What? Do you want to gang up on me in my monster sky race? As soon as he finished speaking, he clapped his hands. In the next moment, a few dozen powerful auras suddenly appeared. After that, a few dozen powerful demon beasts appeared around Yi Xian and the others. The weakest amongst them was a time immortal, and there were even 7 reincarnated travelers amongst them. Yi Xian glanced at the experts of the monster sky race and heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there aren't many reincarnated travelers amongst the monster sky race. Right at this moment, 2 mysterious divine senses suddenly locked onto him. He quickly turned his head to look and saw 2 old men standing not too far away. Both of them wore black robes, and their hands were hidden in their wide sleeves. They were reincarnated travelers as well. Yi Xian's face instantly fell when he saw this. Right at this moment, an unknown and mysterious divine sense suddenly enveloped him. Yi Xian was shocked, and he hurriedly glanced at the surroundings. However, he didn't see the divine sense. Above the reincarnated traveler realm, Yi Xian's face fell. If it was a reincarnated traveler, then he would be able to fight and even kill that reincarnated traveler. But if it was an expert above the reincarnated traveler realm. Suddenly, all of them seemed to have noticed something, and they turned around to look. A young man was walking over slowly from not too far away. It was Tianqi. Tianqi was walking over with 2 goats on his shoulders. Yi Xian and the others were stunned when they saw Tianqi. Tianqi walked over slowly to Yi Xian, and then he placed the 2 goats in front of Yi Xian. Big brother. Roast. Yi Xian gazed at Tianqi. Went to look for the goats just now? Tianqi nodded, yes. Yi Xian turned around to gaze at Dao Ling. Dao Ling hesitated for a moment before he said, he left early in the morning. So, I thought he came to the monster sky race on his own because he was afraid of dragging us down. As he spoke, he smiled sheepishly and said, I didn't expect it to be a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Yi Xian thought for a moment, then he turned to look at the ancient demon king and said with a smile, Ancient demon king, it's a misunderstanding, a huge misunderstanding. We didn't come here today to fight, we came here to deliver the goats. P.S. Everyone is guessing how many chapters will be released tomorrow. I think everyone's guesses are a little off the mark. I suddenly feel a little nervous. 7017K. Chapter 2279. Here to deliver the sheep. Hearing this, the ancient demon king felt humiliated. He flew into a rage and said fiercely, Yi Xian, do you think I am? Before the ancient demon king could finish his sentence, Yi Xian, Dao Ling, and the others suddenly disappeared. They did not run away. Instead, they charged at the ancient demon king. Obviously, they wanted to kill the ancient demon king together. Seeing Yi Xian and the others attacking at the same time, the ancient demon king was dumbfounded. What are they trying to do? Sneak attack? That's immoral. Seeing them charging at him, the ancient demon king quickly said, Kill them. At this moment, Yi Xian and the others were already in front of him. Yi Xian slashed with his sword. Slash into nothingness. Dao Ling and the others also attacked at the same time. Rumble. With a loud explosion, the ancient demon king was sent flying tens of thousands of zhang away. Then his body shattered. Right at this moment, a ray of sword light suddenly slashed towards his soul. Seeing this, the ancient demon king's pupils shrank to the size of a needle. He only had one thought in his mind, it's over. At this critical moment, a mysterious power suddenly enveloped the ancient demon king. Rumble. Yi Xian's sword was blocked by the mysterious power. Yi Xian stopped and turned to look. Not far away, there was an elder in a gray robe. Seeing this person, the experts of the Devil Sky tribe hurriedly saluted, Greetings, Grand Demon King. Grand Demon King. The leader of the 4 Demon Kings. Heavenly Demon King. Yi Xian looked at the Sky Demon King, and a hint of seriousness flashed in his eyes. The old man in front of him had an aura that far surpassed that of the ancient Demon King. It was highly possible that he was an expert above the Reincarnation Walker realm. The Heavenly Demon King sized up Yi Xian and then turned to look at Tianqi. When he saw Xianxia, a complicated look flashed in his eyes. The person in front of him was the most dazzling genius of the heavenly demon tribe. And today, he had become the target that heavenly monster tribe had to eliminate. In the field, some experts of heavenly monster tribe were assessing Xianxia. Some experienced experts of heavenly monster tribe knew Xianxia. When he was born that year, he had shaken the entire tribe. Unfortunately, his mother was of humble birth. Xianxia's expression was calm, but his right hand was tightly clenched. This was his former home. However, he didn't feel anything about this place at all. There was only a sense of unfamiliarity and cold hostility. At this moment, the heavenly demon king suddenly looked at Yixian and said solemnly, "You're so young, yet you have such terrifying strength. I presume you're not an ordinary person. Come, tell me about the person behind you." Yixian shook his head. "I don't have anyone backing me up. I relied on myself to get where I am now." Celestial Demon King looked at Yixian. "Do I look like a fool to you?" Yixian thought for a moment and said, "I have a younger sister. She's very invincible, and even the Daoist is afraid of her." The Daoist was speechless. Celestial Demon King looked at Yixian. "Invincible?" Yixian nodded. "Yes." Celestial Demon King's expression was calm. "How invincible?" Yixian hesitated for a moment. Then he said, "Invincible is a humble description." Celestial Demon King stared at Yixian. "Do I look like a fool to you?" Clearly, he didn't believe it. Yixian glanced at Celestial Demon King and smiled. "I think you do." Celestial Demon King narrowed his eyes. "I'll give you one last chance. Tell me about the person and faction behind you." Clearly, he was still afraid of the person behind Yixian and the faction they represented. Yixian said solemnly, "My younger sister is really invincible." Celestial Demon King looked at Yixian. "Then tell her to come. I want to see her." Yixian hesitated for a moment before saying, "This?" Celestial Demon King sneered. "But isn't she invincible? Why is she afraid of coming to my Fey Sky race?" Yixian shook his head. "I'll tell you the truth again. Don't be angry. Your Fey Sky race is too weak. She might not be interested." Hearing this, the Fey Sky race powerhouses were stunned at first. Then they laughed loudly. Celestial Demon King could not help but laugh loudly too. Yixian was silent. Dao Ling said solemnly, "Brother Yi, why do you sound like you're bragging when you're telling the truth? Not to mention them, even I don't believe you." Yixian was speechless. At this moment, Celestial Demon King suddenly laughed. "Young man, are you trying to make this old man laugh himself to death? Invincible? How many people in this world dare to say they are invincible? You said she is invincible. Aren't you afraid that her fate is not strong enough and she will be arranged by the Daoist?" In a small room in the Milky Way, a voice suddenly sounded. "Arrange your mother?" Yixian glanced at Celestial Demon King. "Old man, to be honest, I think the Daoist might be arranging things for you." Celestial Demon King sneered. "I have transcended time. What can the Daoist do to me?" Yixian said sternly, "How dare you look down on the Daoist? You are too arrogant." Celestial Demon King mocked. "Only an ant like you would fear the so-called Daoist. Let me tell you, my fate is up to me, not the heavens. A true expert can decide his own fate. The Daoist can only bully ants like you. In the face of a top expert, he doesn't even dare to fart." "What?" Yixian glanced at Celestial Demon King and gave him a thumbs up. "Impressive." Celestial Demon King wanted to say something, but at this moment, dark clouds suddenly covered the sky above the Fey Sky race. Then, a bolt of lightning suddenly appeared in the dark clouds. Seeing this scene, all the heavenly demon race experts were stunned. At this moment, Celestial Demon King's expression suddenly changed. Reincarnation Divine Lightning Tribulation. The old man isn't breaking through. Why did the Reincarnation Divine Lightning Tribulation appear? What the hell? Yixian glanced at the divine lightning that was about to condense in the sky. He knew it must be the Daoist's doing. Celestial Demon King's words clearly angered the Daoist. At this moment, Celestial Demon King seemed to recall something, and his pupils shrank. Daoist? It's Daoist? All the Fey Sky race experts were stunned. Daoist was targeting Celestial Demon King? At this moment, Celestial Demon King suddenly said fiercely, Daoist, the old man has no grudge against you. Why are you doing this? There was no response, but the tribulation lightning was getting stronger. Celestial Demon King's eyes flashed with fear. At this moment he was panicking. Damn it. Actually, he was still a little fearful of the Great Way Brush. The reason why he said that just now was because he wanted to act tough. But he didn't expect that the Daoist would directly arrange for him to attack. This is too much. At the side, Yixian suddenly said, Celestial Demon King, are you afraid? Celestial Demon King glared at Yixian angrily. It's none of your business. Yixian said with a smile, Celestial Demon King, you just said that the Daoist doesn't even dare to fart in front of a true expert. But are you afraid now? Celestial Demon King stared at Yixian as if he wanted to skin Yixian alive. At this moment, the tribulation lightning suddenly fell from the sky. Boom! In an instant, a terrifying force swept down. Below, Celestial Demon King's pupils constricted. He suddenly roared, spread his arms, and returned to his original form. Celestial Demon King was like a giant bear. His arms were 10,000 feet long. Once he returned to his original form, the surrounding mountains seemed extremely small. A trace of hostility flashed in the Heavenly Demon King's eyes. He suddenly roared angrily and punched. Rumble! His punch shook heaven and earth as if it wanted to crush the sky. It was extremely frightening. Rumble! With a loud explosion, the tribulation lightning directly shattered Celestial Demon King's body. Gone. That mountain-like body was like a piece of tofu in front of the tribulation lightning. It shattered with one touch. Boom! Celestial Demon King's body shattered, leaving only his soul. That soul was extremely weak and almost transparent. All the Fey Sky race experts were dumbfounded. Yixian was also a little shocked. Damn it, this Daoist is really amazing. In the air, Celestial Demon King was a little confused. Gone. I'm gone just like that? What the hell? At this moment, Yixian suddenly said, Celestial Demon King, rest in peace. Celestial Demon King looked at Yixian with a sharp gaze. You deliberately set a trap for me to offend Daoist. Yixian nodded. But you said it yourself. Daoist only bullies the weak and fears the strong. In front of a true expert, he doesn't even dare to fart. You said that, right? Celestial Demon King stared at Yixian. Yixian smiled and said, I'll be struck by lightning if I act cool. Ha! Celestial Demon King was so angry that he disappeared on the spot. In the battlefield, all the Celestial Demon race experts were dumbfounded. Gone. The powerful Celestial Demon King was gone just like that? At this moment, Yixian suddenly cupped his fists at the tribulation lightning. He smiled and said, Brother Bai, thank you. Daoist, all the Celestial Demon race experts looked at Yixian in shock. Was this guy on Daoist's side? At this moment, Yixian suddenly frowned. What? You want to exterminate the entire Celestial Demon race? This isn't too good, right? All the Celestial Demon race experts. At this moment, Yixian suddenly said seriously, Brother Bai, this isn't right. Although Celestial Demon King was disrespectful to you, his wife and children shouldn't be implicated. I think it's enough for you to kill him. You want to exterminate his entire race? You're going a little too far. Daoist, all the Celestial Demon race experts were really panicking now. They had just witnessed how terrifying Daoist was. If Daoist really wanted to exterminate the entire Celestial Demon race, some of the monstrous Sky Tribe experts were already starting to feel fear. At this time, Yixian said, Brother Bai, this clan must not be destroyed, they are inhumane. When he spoke up to this point, he paused for a moment and said, How about this? Ask the Demon Sky clan to compensate you with thousands of universe veins, and we'll let bygones be bygones. What do you think? Daoist, Yixian suddenly turned to look at the Fey Sky clan experts below. My brother Bai has agreed. Give me 1,000 or 10,000 universe veins, and I'll let this matter go. In a small room in the Milky Way galaxy, a voice suddenly bellowed, "Damn it, how dare you be so fancy? Astra see me?" At this moment, a sword suddenly appeared in the room. The voice stopped abruptly. After a while, the voice said calmly, "Young Master Ye's wisdom is unparalleled. I admire you very much. P.S. If I explode today, I won't let you leave the toilet." He squatted until his legs were numb. 7017K. Chapter 2280. The expressions of the experts from the Moon Devil Sky clan turned unsightly when they saw that Yi Xian wanted the time vein. He wants the time vein? Is Daoist greedy for money? That shouldn't be the case. He's just a brush. Why would he need the time vein? Could it be that Yi Xian wanted to take this opportunity to extort money? The experts from the Moon Devil Sky clan turned unsightly when they thought of that. Damn it! This young man is clearly trying to extort us. However, they didn't dare to voice their anger. After all, the tribulation lightning was still there. Moreover, they weren't sure about the relationship between Daoist and Yi Xian. Do they know each other? Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly frowned. What? Do all of you want to be annihilated? The experts from the Moon Devil Sky clan gazed coldly at Yi Xian and remained silent. Yi Xian turned around and looked at the tribulation lightning. Brother Brush? The tribulation lightning suddenly vanished. Yi Xian's face fell. Damn it! The Daoist isn't giving me any face at all. How embarrassing! Damn it! Yi Xian's expression was extremely unsightly. The experts from the Moon Devil Sky clan gazed at Yi Xian with hostile gazes when they saw the tribulation lightning vanish. Obviously, the Daoist didn't intend to ask for the time vein. It was this young man who wanted to extort the Moon Devil Sky clan. He's simply insane. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly shot a glance at Dao Ling and the others, and they vanished into the starry sky. The experts of the Monster Sky clan wanted to pursue Yi Xian, but they seemed to be afraid of something in the next moment, and they didn't dare to pursue him. After all, Yi Xian wasn't weak. If they chased after him, they might not be able to return alive even if they chased after him. Meanwhile, a terrifying aura suddenly swept out from the surroundings. They turned around and saw a beautiful woman walking over slowly from afar. The beautiful woman was dressed in a long black dress. She had a voluptuous figure and an ice-cold expression. The expressions of all the experts of the Demon Sky clan changed drastically when they saw her, and then they hurriedly bowed. Patriarch. Clan leader. This woman was the current clan leader of the monstrous Sky clan, Yao Lian. Back then, the incident of Tianqi's abandonment was caused by this woman. Evil Lotus looked at the deep space in the distance. Her face was expressionless, but her eyes were terrifyingly cold. After a while, Evil Lotus suddenly said, "Send my order. Tell the two gods and nether monster to return immediately." With that, she turned around and left. 1 hour later, Evil Lotus came to a celestial treasure pavilion alone. This was the celestial treasure pavilion of the Demon Heaven's celestial realm. The Demon Heaven clan had always had a good relationship with this celestial treasure pavilion. As soon as Evil Lotus entered the palace, a lady came out to welcome him. That lady was the president of the Celestial Treasure Pavilion's branch, Songyu. Songyu smiled. "What brings you here?" Evil Lotus walked to Songyu and went straight to the point. "I want all the information about that young man." The smile on Songyu's face instantly disappeared. Evil Lotus frowned. "Trouble?" Yao Yu sighed in a low voice. "Yes." Evil Lotus spoke in a low voice. "We're sisters. Aren't you going to help me with this?" Songyu glanced at Evil Lotus. "If I didn't want to help you, I would have left this place a long time ago." As she spoke, she glanced at the maidservants by the side, and they immediately left. Songyu spoke in a low voice. "That young man is called Yi Xian, and he's an extraordinary distinguished guest of the Celestial Treasure Pavilion. Moreover, according to my knowledge, he has a very good relationship with the Pavilion Master. As for the exact relationship between them, I don't know. All I know is that the pavilion master treats him differently than others. When she spoke up to this point, she glanced at Evil Lotus and spoke in a low voice. I suggest that you don't go against him. Evil Lotus's expression was icy cold. I don't want to go against him. He wants to go against the Demon Heaven clan. Song Yu sighed in a low voice and didn't speak. Evil Lotus continued, do me one last favor. I want all the information about this young man and the power behind him. Song Yu immediately shook her head. Evil Lotus frowned slightly. You don't want to help me? Song Yu spoke in a low voice. It's not that I don't want to help you, but I have no right to investigate the power behind him. With my current rank, I don't have the right to investigate him. Evil Lotus frowned slightly. So mysterious? Song Yu nodded. More than mysterious. As she spoke, she looked at Evil Lotus and spoke seriously. Evil Lotus, I sincerely suggest that you don't go against him. This young man is mysterious and terrifying. If you insist on going against him, I'm afraid you'll be in great trouble. Evil Lotus's expression became even colder. Is that so? I'd like to see who exactly he is. After that, she turned around and left. Song Yu wanted to persuade her, but Evil Lotus didn't give her the chance. She disappeared in the horizon. In the palace, Song Yu was silent. At this moment, an old man appeared beside Song Yu. He spoke in a low voice. President. Song Yu closed her eyes slowly and said softly, I'm afraid the Demon Heaven clan is finished. The old man was shocked. President, why do you say that? Song Yu looked up into the sky and spoke softly, I have the right to investigate the Demon Heaven clan, but I don't have the right to investigate the power behind that young man. The old man instantly came to an understanding when he heard this. Meanwhile, Song Yu spoke abruptly, go contact that young man Yi Xian in secret and express our goodwill. The old man hesitated for a moment and said, then the Demon Heaven clan. Song Yu's expression was calm. There are no eternal friends, only eternal interests. I'll be friends with whoever is stronger. After that, she turned around and left. The old man was speechless. On the other side, Yi Xian and the others heaved sighs of relief when they saw that the Demon Heaven clan hadn't pursued them after they'd fled. They'd almost been ganged up on just now. Meanwhile, Tianqi spoke abruptly, Big brother? Yi Xian looked at Tianqi. What's wrong? Tianqi turned to look in the direction of the Demon Heaven clan with a slightly dazed gaze. It's a very familiar smell, very familiar. Yi Xian and the others exchanged glances. It was very likely that the familiar smell that Tianqi spoke of was his mother. Mother. Yi Xian fell silent. Tianqi lowered his head slightly and didn't say anything else. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Tianqi, our current strength isn't enough to go against the entire Demon Heaven clan. Tianqi suddenly looked at Yi Xian. I don't want to implicate all of you, but I only know all of you. Yi Xian smiled and said, don't worry. Your problem is our problem. Dao Ling nodded as well. Tianqi, don't worry. With Brother Yi around, any problem can be solved. Tianqi shook his head. I don't want to implicate all of you. As he spoke, he clenched his fists slowly, and his eyes were filled with determination. Want to become stronger? Become stronger. Yi Xian was about to speak when he suddenly turned around. Space had suddenly split open in the depths of the starry sky, and then a beautiful woman in a black dress walked out from within it. She was the patriarch of the Demon Heaven clan, Yao Lian. Beside Evil Lotus, there were two black-robed elders. The auras of these two black-robed elders were unfathomable, and there were 9 people standing behind these two elders. All 9 of them were reincarnated travelers. Yi Xian frowned when he witnessed this scene. The experts of the Demon Heaven clan had chased after us in the end. Yao Lian gazed at Yi Xian and said, What's your relationship with Daoist? Yi Xian smiled, We're good brothers. Yao Lian's expression was icy cold. Don't be glib in front of me, all right? Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, You're that woman who seized the bloodline of the heaven-abandoned devil god all those years ago? Yao Lian's expression was calm. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly. How vicious! Yao Lian stared fixedly at Yi Xian, This has nothing to do with you, yet you just had to interfere. Since it's like that, then don't blame me for being merciless." As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly vanished on the spot. This space had suddenly split open in front of Yi Xian, and then a mysterious figure had charged out from within it. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly, and then he swiftly drew his sword and slashed. Rumble! An expanse of sword light shattered, and then Yi Xian was instantly blasted over 100 kilometers away. After Yi Xian stopped moving, he glanced at his right hand. At this moment, the sword in his hand had shattered completely. Moreover, his entire right arm had cracked open, and the ghastly white bones within it were clearly visible. It was an extremely shocking sight. Yi Xian raised his head and looked at Yao Lian in the distance. There was a trace of seriousness in his eyes. This woman's strength was much more terrifying than the heavenly demon king's. Black Lotus stared coldly at Yi Xian. She slowly clenched her right hand, and at the same time, a terrifying force suddenly gathered from all directions. In an instant, the entire Milky Way was boiling. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly, and his right hand gripped tightly onto the sword in his hand. A powerful force gushed out of his body and finally surged into the sword in his right hand. At this moment, Black Lotus suddenly vanished on the spot. Rumble! A demonic beast's roar suddenly resounded through the starry sky. Rumble! In an instant, Dao Ling and the others' expressions changed drastically. That roar had shaken their eardrums and damaged their internal organs. Dao Ling and the others ignored their own injuries and quickly looked at Yi Xian in the distance. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly opened his eyes and slashed out with his sword. Slash through nothingness. With one slash, all things returned to nothingness. Rumble! The starry sky in front of Yi Xian was directly erased. Then, a terrifying force suddenly erupted. Rumble! Along with his sword, Yi Xian instantly retreated tens of thousands of meters away. As soon as he stopped, a huge hand suddenly descended from above Yi Xian's head. Rumble! In an instant, the starry sky above Yi Xian's head started burning. Below, Yi Xian lightly pushed with his thumb. A sword howl soared into the sky, and it slashed at the huge hand. Rumble! The huge hand was suddenly erased. At the sight of this, Evil Lotus instantly narrowed her eyes. What sword technique is that? In the distance, Yi Xian wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth, and then he grinned. Won't you know after I stab you? Evil Lotus suddenly flew into a rage. Shameless! Shameless! I'm going to castrate you. Yi Xian was stunned. What the fuck did I say? How am I shameless and shameless? 7017K. Chapter 2281. Needless to say, Yi Xian was a bit confused. What was wrong with what he said? Was there a problem? Yi Xian thought about it carefully. Was there a problem? At this moment, Evil Lotus suddenly rushed toward Yi Xian like a madman. Behind her, a huge demonic beast Dharma Laksana appeared. Although it had not completely returned to its original form, it was already extremely terrifying. The powerful demonic beast power swept across the sky. The entire starry sky was boiling like water. It was extremely terrifying. As soon as Evil Lotus rushed forward, Yi Xian felt an extremely terrifying power. He did not dare to be careless. He rushed forward and slashed with his sword. One slash cut through nothingness. Rumble! A sword light exploded. Yi Xian and Evil Lotus retreated at the same time. After Evil Lotus stopped, she looked at her right hand. At this moment, her right hand had become illusory. Evil Lotus was a bit shocked. If she had not retreated quickly, her hand would have been completely wiped out. What a terrifying sword skill! Evil Lotus looked at Yi Xian in the distance. At this moment, there was no contempt in her eyes. The sword skill of this young man in front of her was not just ordinarily terrifying. It was definitely not created by an ordinary person. Thinking of this, Evil Lotus's face fell. However, she had no way out now. It was impossible to back down now. Thinking of this, Evil Lotus looked at Yi Xian in the distance. Her eyes flashed with killing intent. The next moment, her body shook violently. Then she turned into a huge black phoenix and soared into the sky. Rumble. All of a sudden, a dark flame spread out from the depths of the starry sky. At this moment, the entire starry sky was burning. At the same time, the temperature within a radius of hundreds of thousands of zhang suddenly skyrocketed. The galaxy was incinerated directly. In the starry sky, Evil Lotus looked down at Yi Xian. Her eyes flashed with hostility. Damn human, die. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly turned into a flame and swooped down from the starry sky. Rumble. A terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth swept down from the starry sky. At this moment, even the strong cultivators in the reincarnation walker realm could not help but tremble. A tremor that came from the depths of one's soul. Below, Yi Xian raised his head and looked at the fire phoenix swooping down. His expression was incomparably grave. This power had far surpassed the reincarnation walker realm. At this moment he had no way out. He held the sword tightly in his right hand, and in the next moment he suddenly shot into the sky and slashed through the sky. Sword cleaving the heavens. Rumble. Suddenly, an expanse of sword light and flames erupted from the depths of the starry sky, and then a figure retreated explosively for over 100 kilometers away. This person was Yi Xian. As soon as Yi Xian stopped, his body began to melt. The expressions of Dao Ling and the others changed drastically when they saw this. They were about to make a move, but they were stopped by the experts from the Demon Sky clan. In the distance, Yi Xian looked at his melted body in shock. The temperature of the flames was too terrifying. Even the sword in his hand had melted. In the sky, Evil Lotus did not have it easy either. Yi Xian's sword had seriously injured her. If she had not used her own flames to block it, she would have been wiped out if Yi Xian's sword had hit her. Terrifying. Yi Xian and Evil Lotus looked at each other, and their eyes were filled with undisguised seriousness. Both sides were afraid of each other. At this moment, Yi Xian activated the immortal bloodline and took out a handful of elixirs to consume. These elixirs had been given to him by Yang Xianxia a long time ago, and they still had their uses. With the help of the elixirs and the immortal bloodline, his body gradually returned to normal. However, the temperature in the starry sky was getting higher and higher. In the starry sky, Evil Lotus stared fixedly at Yi Xian with undisguised killing intent in her eyes. Yi Xian was young and monstrous, and she was deeply afraid of him. If she did not kill Yi Xian today, Yi Xian would definitely pose a threat to the Demon Sky clan in the future. No, Yi Xian was already capable of posing a threat to the Demon Sky clan now. Without any hesitation, Evil Lotus suddenly vanished on the spot. Boom! In the starry sky, a wave of fire swept down towards Yi Xian. Rumble! In an instant, the starry sky within a few million zhang was completely incinerated into nothingness. Down below, Yi Xian suddenly raised his head, and a wisp of hostility flashed in his eyes. In the next moment, the blood in his body suddenly boiled. Boom! A strand of bloodline power shot up into the sky from her body. Bloodline power. He did not dare to hold back in the face of Evil Lotus' terrifying attack, and he immediately activated the bloodline power. Rumble! The powerful bloodline power caused his aura to instantly skyrocket. Yi Xian suddenly transformed into a blood-red sword radiance that soared into the sky and slashed at the flame. Rumble! In an instant, the flame and sword radiance exploded. Then Yi Xian and Evil Lotus retreated at the same time, and both of them retreated hundreds of zhang away. As soon as Evil Lotus stopped, several sword radiances silently slashed at her. However, the sword radiances were directly incinerated into nothingness before they could even get close to her. Seeing this, Yi Xian's face instantly sank. At this moment, he finally realized that the flame emitted by Evil Lotus was too terrifying, and it was so terrifying that he could not get close to her at all. In this way, she was practically in an invincible position, because he could not use the slash into nothingness that was a threat to her endlessly. Every time he used it, it would consume a huge amount of energy. Apart from the slash into nothingness, his other sword techniques could not threaten this woman at all. In the starry sky, Evil Lotus's eyes suddenly narrowed slightly. Your bloodline? Obviously, she'd noticed the uniqueness of Yi Xian's bloodline. Yi Xian was just about to speak when a wisp of greed suddenly flashed through her eyes. If I devour your bloodline, then my strength will definitely increase greatly. As soon as she finished speaking, she suddenly plunged down towards Yi Xian. A wisp of viciousness flashed through Yi Xian's eyes. He opened his palm, and a blood-red sword suddenly appeared in his hand. In the next moment, he suddenly charged into the sky with his sword in hand. The slash of the heavens. Bang! A blood-red ray of light slashed directly onto the flames around Evil Lotus. Rumble! Countless flames sputtered as Evil Lotus was directly slashed back by Yi Xian's sword strike, and the flames around her had become much dimmer by Yi Xian's sword strike. However, the blood-red sword in Yi Xian's hand actually hadn't vanished. Disbelief instantly appeared in Evil Lotus's eyes when she witnessed this scene. How could this be possible? Yi Xian was slightly surprised as well. He hadn't expected that the sword condensed from his blood would actually be able to resist her flames. Yi Xian raised his head to look at Evil Lotus in the distance, and then he grinned, again. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly vanished on the spot. A blood-red ray of light slashed directly towards Evil Lotus. This time, it was the slash of nothingness. The energy of his bloodline coupled with the slash of nothingness. It could be said to be an attack that Yi Xian had executed with his full strength. Evil Lotus didn't dare be careless or underestimate Yi Xian in the slightest when facing this sword strike that Yi Xian had executed with his full strength. She suddenly let out a furious howl, and a terrifying wave of flames swept out from within her body. Subsequently, she dove down from the starry sky. At the same time, she opened her enormous mouth with the intention of swallowing Yi Xian in a single gulp. Yi Xian suddenly roared with laughter. In the next moment, she suddenly stomped her right foot on the ground and transformed into a blood-red ray of light that shot into the sky. Rumble! Suddenly, a blood-red ray of light exploded apart, and then Yi Xian retreated explosively for over 100 kilometers. On the other hand, Evil Lotus hurriedly retreated explosively as well. She retreated for over 100 kilometers, and as soon as she stopped moving, the flames around her were instantly transformed into nothingness. Slash of nothingness. Even the flames around Evil Lotus were unable to resist this terrifying slash of nothingness. At this moment, besides shock, there was deep fear in Evil Lotus's heart. Actually, Yi Xian's strength wasn't terrifying, and it was that sword technique of his that was terrifying. That sword technique was too terrifying. After all, even a rebirth traveler wouldn't dare to rashly touch the might of her flames. However, Yi Xian's bloodline had actually been able to resist it. Most importantly, Yi Xian's attack had been able to destroy her flames. That was extremely absurd. Below, Yi Xian's entire body was covered in blood. Even though he'd activated his bloodline, he hadn't completely lost his mind. He looked at Evil Lotus in the distance and grinned. Again! As he spoke, he suddenly leaped up and slashed with the blood-red sword with both hands. A wave of sword light shot out like a waterfall. A wisp of viciousness flashed in Evil Lotus's eyes, and she suddenly leaped up and directly collided with Yi Xian. Moreover, the terrifying pitch-black flames condensed again around her, and as soon as the powerful flames appeared, the temperature in the surroundings instantly increased by a few hundred times. Rumble! A wave of blood-red rays of light suddenly shattered, and Yi Xian retreated explosively once more while Evil Lotus retreated repeatedly. As she retreated explosively, the flames on her body were visibly vanishing. In the distance, while Yi Xian was retreating explosively, his body started to melt bit by bit again. His sword could resist the flames, but his body couldn't. Yi Xian hurriedly circulated his undying bloodline, and then he fed himself over 10 medicinal pills. Yi Xian's body gradually returned to normal under the effects of the bloodline energy and medicinal pills. On the other hand, Evil Lotus's face instantly sank. What the hell are you? You have 2 more bloodlines. Yi Xian glanced coldly at her. Can't I? Evil Lotus stared fixedly at Yi Xian as if she wanted to skin Yi Xian alive. But at the same time, she was very clearly aware that she couldn't do anything to Yi Xian. Needless to say, she felt slightly helpless. This young man's cultivation realm was much lower than her, but his combat strength wasn't inferior to her. So, continuing the battle would only be a waste of time. When she thought up to here, she slowly closed her eyes. Come out. As soon as she finished speaking, two extremely terrifying auras suddenly swept over from the distant starry sky. Yi Xian's expression instantly changed when he witnessed this scene. Woman, what do you want to do? I'm telling you, let's fight one-on-one. Don't do something so shameless as ganging up on me. Damn it. Evil Lotus stared at Yi Xian. I want to ganging up on you. Bite me. Yi Xian glanced at Evil Lotus and asked, How do I bite you? Evil Lotus instantly flew into a rage. You pervert. You're shameless. Yi Xian was speechless. 7017K. Chapter 2282. Needless to say, Yi Xian was completely dumbfounded. What the hell? Meanwhile, Black Lotus didn't waste his breath and charged at Yi Xian. At the same time, two extremely terrifying and powerful auras smashed down towards Yi Xian. These two auras were only slightly weaker than Black Lotus. Yi Xian's face fell when he saw this. A group fight. Damn it. These fellows are really shameless. Yi Xian turned to look at Dao Ling and the others. At this moment, Dao Ling and the others were being held back by the members of the Demon Sky clan and had no time to care about him. Flee? He rejected this thought as soon as it appeared in his mind. If he fled, then Dao Ling and the others would be finished. I can't flee. Yi Xian's face was extremely unsightly as he looked at Evil Lotus and the other two who were charging at him. However, he didn't retreat. He had to bear the consequences at a time like this. Yi Xian closed his eyes slowly, and the blood in his body started to boil. Bang! In an instant, Yi Xian was covered in blood. He didn't dare to ignite his bloodline and soul. He couldn't do this without the green profound sword. Yi Xian suddenly raised his head to look at Evil Lotus and the other two. In the next moment, he stomped his right foot and transformed into a ray of light that shot out explosively. Rumble! The powerful sword energy instantly shattered the starry sky. Bang! As an explosion resounded, Yi Xian was blasted hundreds of kilometers away. As soon as he stopped, his body was destroyed by the powerful attacks of Evil Lotus and the other two. Only his soul remained. Yi Xian's face was extremely unsightly when he stopped. He could still fight one of them, but he couldn't fight three of them at all. It was too ridiculous. He didn't even ignite his soul or blood. In the distance, Evil Lotus looked at Yi Xian and said, What? Why haven't you called for help? Actually, she'd always been on guard. Because she knew that there was an enormous force behind Yi Xian, and it was precisely because of this that she'd always been secretly on guard in her heart. She was afraid that the person behind Yi Xian would suddenly make a move and catch her off guard. However, what surprised her was that the person behind Yi Xian had not shown any sign of showing up since the beginning of the fight. Could it be that they were afraid of the Demon Sky clan and didn't dare to make a move? Thinking about this, Evil Lotus squinted her eyes and the uneasiness in her heart gradually disappeared. In the distance, Yi Xian was silent. Call for help. Who should I call? Call me father? There might not be a chance. Qing? He felt a little embarrassed. After all, he had boasted in front of her that he had to rely on himself. Not going to scream? He would probably be beaten to death. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he said, If you don't gang up on me, then I won't call for help. What do you think? Huh. Evil Lotus suddenly laughed. Yi Xian frowned slightly. What was wrong with this woman? Evil Lotus laughed even more crazily. After a moment, she looked at Yi Xian with excitement and mockery in her eyes. Yi Xian, if I'm not wrong, the force behind you is just an ordinary force. Therefore, they don't dare to become enemies with the Demon Sky clan. Am I right? Yi Xian was silent. Evil Lotus stared at Yi Xian and became even more excited. Come, call for help. Call for help right now. Yi Xian was speechless. At this moment, Dao Ling, who was being attacked wildly in the distance, suddenly said in a trembling voice, "Brother Yi, just listen to her and call for help." In the distance, Shi Tian hurriedly nodded. "Sure, call, that's not too much." They were the ones who didn't care about martial ethics first. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he sighed softly. He took out the Xian ring and said, "Actually, I really don't want to rely on my family." Dao Ling hurriedly said, "Understood, we all understand. This woman is the one who asked you to call for help. It has nothing to do with you. Brother Yi, don't feel burdened. If you really can't do it, I can take the blame." Yi Xian said in a low voice, "But I feel that this kind of life is meaningless. What's the point of calling for help if you can't beat someone?" Dao Ling said in a trembling voice, "They already ganged up on you. Why do you still care about this?" Yi Xian said seriously, "But this way, I will become dependent. If I encounter any problems in the future, I will think of calling for help. If this goes on, I will become a second-generation heir." Dao Ling looked at Yi Xian in shock. "Brother Yi, do you still think that you are not a second-generation heir?" Yi Xian said in a low voice, "I have relied on myself most of the time." Dao Ling and the others were speechless. At this moment, Evil Lotus suddenly said sarcastically, "Relied on yourself? Yi Xian, I was afraid of you. After all, a genius like you must have someone backing you. But now it seems that you just got lucky and got the Daoist's favor. That's why you have the strength you have today." As she spoke, she glanced at Yi Xian, and then she said, "Your bloodline is quite interesting. Your ancestor should have been a peerless powerhouse. But now, he has declined. Am I right?" Yi Xian fell silent. Evil Lotus continued, "Do it. Don't kill him." As she spoke, she suddenly disappeared on the spot. Rumble. In an instant, the space-time around Yi Xian started burning. Then, terrifying flames surrounded the space-time where Yi Xian was like a cage. At the same time, the other two mysterious experts sealed the area where Yi Xian was with terrifying power. Yi Xian frowned. "Does she intend to trap me?" Yi Xian didn't think too much about it. He leaped up and slashed down with his sword. Slash through the void. A terrifying force tore the flames into nothingness. At the same time, the mysterious energy around him was eliminated as well. A wisp of rage flashed through Evil Lotus' eyes when she witnessed this scene. "Yi Xian, I'll give you one last chance. If you don't call for help, then I'll swallow you right now." Yi Xian was quite puzzled. "Why do you want me to call for help? Have you gone mad? Can't you just bully me?" Evil Lotus stared fixedly at Yi Xian and didn't speak. Meanwhile, Dao Ling spoke abruptly, "Brother Yi, she's taken a fancy to your bloodline. She wants to devour the bloodline of your Yang clan." Bloodline? Yi Xian was stunned when he heard that. He'd actually forgotten about that. After all, his bloodline was very special and it was very useful to demonic beasts. Obviously, Evil Lotus had taken a fancy to his bloodline. To be more precise, she had taken a fancy to the bloodline of his Yang clan. Evil Lotus stared at Yi Xian with excitement. She looked at Yi Xian as if she was looking at a great opportunity. Yi Xian's bloodline made her extremely excited. Her instinct told her that if she could devour Yi Xian's bloodline, then she might even be able to reach another level and reach another height. What would it mean if she found the clan behind Yi Xian? It meant that the Demon Sky clan would rise completely and reach a new height. Moreover, she had another plan. She planned to rear Yi Xian's entire clan so that they could provide an endless supply of bloodline to the Demon Sky clan. It was like rearing pigs. Fatten them up before killing them. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. She seemed to be able to see the beautiful scene of the Demon Sky clan rising completely and dominating the world. In the distance, Yi Xian was silent. He was quite shocked as well. She's actually targeting the Yang clan. Meanwhile, Evil Lotus suddenly glanced at Dao Ling and the others, and then she said, "Yi Xian, if you don't call for help, then I'll kill all of your friends right here in front of you." Yi Xian glanced at her. "Are you sure you want me to call for help?" She stared fixedly at Yi Xian. "I beg you." Yi Xian nodded slightly. "All right." As soon as he finished speaking, he opened his palm, and the dark ring appeared there. In the next moment, the dark ring started trembling slightly. It didn't take long for a ray of light to tear through space and arrive here. After that, an old man appeared by Yi Xian's side. The person who had arrived was none other than Senior Jun. Elder Jun bowed slightly to Yi Xian. "Young master." Yi Xian glanced at Evil Lotus, and then he said, "She's looking for all of you." Elder Jun glanced at Evil Lotus, and her eyes narrowed slightly when she saw Elder Jun, while a trace of vigilance arose in her heart. "How strong! This old man before me is extremely extraordinary." Elder Jun gazed at Evil Lotus with a calm expression when he heard Yi Xian, "Looking for us?" Evil Lotus gazed at Elder Jun. "Who are you?" At this moment, she was slightly more vigilant. Elder Jun's face was emotionless. "The Yang clan." Evil Lotus frowned slightly. "The Yang clan." As she spoke, she glanced at Yi Xian. "What's the relationship between the Yang clan and that fellow with the surname Yi?" Yi Xian was speechless. Elder Jun fell silent. Actually, he was very puzzled as well. Why is the young master called Yi Xian and not Yang Xian? If Yi Xian didn't possess the Mad Devil bloodline, he would even think that Yi Xian wasn't the Sword Master's biological son. Evil Lotus suddenly said, "Which universe is the Yang clan located in?" Elder Jun gazed at her with a calm expression. "What are you doing?" Evil Lotus pointed at Yi Xian. "Your young master killed the experts of my Demon Sky race. What do you think about this?" On the surface, she seemed to be questioning Yi Xian, but she was actually trying to find out the truth. In the beginning, she'd thought that while Yi Xian had a power behind him, it definitely wasn't strong. Because this power hadn't made an appearance, and Yi Xian hadn't called for help. So, she'd felt that the power behind Yi Xian was probably ordinary, and it wouldn't dare to go against the Demon Sky race head-on. However, after Elder Jun appeared, she wasn't so sure about her earlier thoughts. Calm. Elder Jun was too calm when facing her and the Demon Sky race. How could a reincarnator be so calm? It was very simple. He was fearless and didn't fear the Demon Sky race. Moreover, Elder Jun's appearance caused a trace of uneasiness to arise in her heart, because she'd never seen Elder Jun before. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for her to not know an expert of such a level. What did this mean? It meant that the power behind Yi Xian was from a universe that the Demon Sky race had never come into contact with. After all the top-notch experts of the Demon Sky race were here, but Yi Xian hadn't taken them seriously at all. At this moment, she'd completely calmed down. Elder Jun's expression was still calm when he heard Evil Lotus. "So be it. What do you want me to think about it?" The experts of the Demon Sky race behind Evil Lotus were instantly furious. However, Evil Lotus's pupils constricted, and she was shocked in her heart. She hurriedly looked at Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, my Demon Sky race has offended you in the past. I apologize to you on behalf of the Demon Sky race. Please forgive me." Everyone present was stunned. Apologize? Admit defeat? Yi Xian was slightly stunned as well. He looked at Evil Lotus, who'd been boundlessly arrogant just a moment ago. "No. Don't play by the rules. I'm not used to what you're doing. You hit me. My bloodline is very good. Devour my bloodline and you'll be able to improve." "I won't resist." The crowd was speechless. 7017K. Chapter 2283. Evil Lotus shook her head at Yi Xian's words. No. Young Master Yi, it was our clan's fault. I apologize to young Master Yi on behalf of our clan." She bowed slightly as she spoke. Yi Xian looked at Evil Lotus in silence. Dao Ling walked up to Yi Xian. He glanced at Evil Lotus and felt a little strange. Is this woman a different person? Yi Xian didn't respond. He knew that Evil Lotus must have noticed something, so she changed her attitude right away and admitted defeat. He had to admit that this woman was a tough one. She was able to let go of things at the same time. Yi Xian turned to look at Old Master Jun. The old man hesitated for a bit and said, "Young master, I'll listen to you. If you want to destroy the Fey Sky clan, I'll do it right away." Hearing Old Master Jun's words, Yao Lian's expression changed drastically. She looked at old Master June in the distance with eyes filled with disbelief. Arrogant? Her instincts told her that the old man wasn't arrogant. He was confident. Undefeatable confidence. What kind of terrifying force is this? Evil Lotus was shocked. Yi Xian looked at old Master June in silence. Old Master June's words were interesting. Boss June could destroy the Fei Sky clan right away, but old Master June didn't do so. Instead, he asked Yi Xian. It was obvious that old Master June didn't want to do it. Seeing Yi Xian's silence, old Master June was afraid that Yi Xian would overthink, so he said in a hurry, "Young master." Yi Xian shook his head. "I know. Father doesn't want me to rely on the clan too much." Old Master June nodded and said softly, "Master June?" "He did." Yi Xian smiled. "Old Master June, I'd like to see my father." Old Master June was dumbfounded. Yi Xian said again, "Contact him for me." It was a commanding tone. Old Master June didn't dare to refuse. He opened his palm and a sword token shot into the sky. Boom! A sword aura appeared in the sky all of a sudden. The next second, a man appeared in the sword aura. It was the azure-robed man. Seeing the green-robed man, Elder June immediately bowed deeply and said with a trembling voice, "Greetings, Sword Master." At the instant she saw the green-clothed man, Yao Lian's expression instantly changed violently. Danger. This was how she felt at the moment. Who was this green-robed man in front of him? Evil Lotus was extremely shocked. Why did he just stand there and give her a formless oppressive feeling? Moreover, that feeling was as if she was an ant. The green-robed man looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "Looking for me?" Yi Xian nodded. "Can we have a chat?" The green-robed man nodded. "Sure." Yi Xian said seriously, "When father and son are talking, don't fight, okay?" The azure-robed man smiled and said, "Sure, come, let's chat." Yi Xian suddenly asked, "Dad, have you ever relied on Grandpa?" The green-robed man looked at Yi Xian without saying a word. Yi Xian asked again, "Father, if it wasn't for grandfather's help, would you have survived back then?" The green-robed man was silent. Yi Xian pointed at Evil Lotus in the distance. "Do you think I'm a normal enemy?" The green-robed man chuckled. "I understand what you mean. You're dissatisfied. Dissatisfied that I let you live, right?" Yi Xian shook his head. "You're wrong. Father, I'm not dissatisfied with you. I'm just a little disappointed." The green-robed man squinted his eyes. "Disappointed?" Yi Xian nodded. "I'm your son. But forgive me for being blunt. You didn't play the role of a father well. I've never felt a father's love since I was young. I don't even have the concept of a father. Yes, I've suffered since I was young. This hardship has tempered my willpower and sharpened my mind." As he spoke, he shook his head and smiled. "But I feel that a person's life shouldn't only be filled with hardship. There should be affection, love, friendship, and father-son relationship. Father, do you think you fulfilled the responsibility of a father?" The green-robed man was silent. Yi Xian continued. "You hope that I can face all difficulties. That's right. But you've never thought of a problem. That is this difficulty something I can bear now?" As he spoke, he smiled. "What do we father and son look like now? You hope that one day I can reach your height, or even surpass you. This is your expectation for me. Besides this, what else is there between us father and son?" The green-robed man was silent. Yi Xian smiled. "Speaking of you, father, I feel that I'm a little sad. Because my memories of the past are of you. Without you, it's a blank." The green-robed man's right hand trembled slightly. Yi Xian continued. "I don't hate you. Because I understand your life. You rose from hardship. You believe that hardship can sharpen one's mind, allowing one to mature and become a talent. So, you don't wish for me to become a second generation. You wish for me to rise from hardship as well." As he spoke to this point, he shook his head and smiled. "Ching, made me feel warmth and kinship. But father, you make me feel unfamiliar. We're not like father and son. We're more like master and disciple. You want me to be you, but I'm not you. I used to see other people's parents shielding them from the wind and rain. I was very envious. When I encountered a strong enemy, I did my best to finish them off. But I also hoped that someone would say to me, "Don't be afraid. Even if the sky falls, Father will carry it." As he spoke, he looked at the green-robed man. "Father, I will work hard. I will work even harder. I will surpass you. But I have to tell you that you're not a qualified father. I want to learn from you. If I had a son, I wouldn't let him be. I would accompany him and let him have a complete family. Companionship is very important. Because the relationship between father and son shouldn't be cold and heartless." The green-robed man looked at Yi Xian. A trace of guilt flashed in the depths of his eyes. After a long time, he sighed. His lips moved, wanting to express his apology. But he had always wanted to be strong. He had never spoken softly to anyone. For a moment, the words that were on the tip of his tongue were stuck in his throat. Yi Xian said with a smile, "Dad, just go. For the rest of the road, I will walk it properly and do my best to walk it." The green-robed man spoke in a light voice. "Don't blame me, all right?" Yi Xian fell silent. The green-robed man walked slowly over to Yi Xian. He patted Yi Xian lightly on the shoulder and said, "I know I was very cruel to you. What I did all those years ago was wrong. Because just as you said, I rose from suffering. So, I want you to be like me." When he spoke up to hear, he shook his head. "But I had no choice. Because no one taught me how to be a good father. What did your grandfather do to me all those years ago? He directly left me on profounder continent. If I didn't have a long life later on, I wouldn't even know that I had a father. If you want to blame and hate, then blame your grandfather. It was he who set the precedent and caused such a bad atmosphere in our Yang clan." Yang Wudi was speechless. Yi Xian was speechless. Damn it. This father is really inhuman. He directly threw the blame to me. The problem is, how can he throw the blame to me? The green-robed man continued. "I admit that I didn't do a good job when you said accompany me. But you have to be considerate of your father. If you feel it's difficult and bitter, then think about me all those years ago. Wasn't I miserable all those years ago? Wasn't I miserable? I was miserable too. Your father had a pile of enemies all those years ago. Look at our bloodline. How did it come about? It was me, your father, who killed all those years ago." When he spoke up to hear, he sighed in a low voice. "Everyone by your side is still there. But do you know what happened to your father all those years ago? Father went missing, mother died, and I was all alone. It was difficult for your father." Yi Xian was speechless. The green-robed man continued. "You say your enemies are abnormal, but are my enemies normal? Not to mention anything else. Do you think Tianming was normal all those years ago? Wasn't it abnormal as well? But didn't you get through it? You see that I'm invincible now, but you didn't see how much pain I suffered all those years ago. Had a tough life too." Yi Xian's face darkened. "Damn it. Why is something wrong? You make it sound like I'm your father." The green-robed man turned to look at Evil Lotus. "I want to help you too. But think about it. Your father traveled across billions of star fields just to kill someone of this level. That's embarrassing. Take you for example. Your friend in Qingqing asked you to travel millions of star fields just to kill an ant. How do you feel about that?" Yi Xian was dumbfounded by what he heard. On the other hand, the expressions of Yao Lian and the others instantly became extremely unsightly. In the green-robed man's eyes, their clan leader was an ant? The Fey Sky clan's experts were burning with anger. They were about to explode, but Evil Lotus stopped them with a look. The people behind her could not see how terrifying the green-robed man was, but she could see that the green-robed man was not someone that she and the Fey Sky clan could fight against. If they fought, they would definitely be able to exterminate their clan. They had to endure. They had to endure. Because of Evil Lotus, although the Fey Sky clan's experts were unhappy, they did not dare to do anything. In the Fey Sky clan, Evil Lotus had absolute authority. In the distance, the green-robed man smiled. "Little fella, I just remembered something. I once obtained a treasure and wanted to give it to you. However, I never had the chance. Now, I finally have the chance." As he spoke, He opened his palm and a sword appeared in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian was curious. This? The green-robed man smiled. I picked up, I found a sword for you. This is custom-made for you. It's a supreme-grade godly sword. It suits you very well. Keep it. Yi Xian, the green-robed man continued. This is your first time and my first time. Let's not ask for too much. After all, it's our first time. Let's just make do with each other. Do a good job. I won't forget you. Alright, I have something to do. I have to go. You. Do a good job. You can do it. I believe in you. With that, he turned around and disappeared. In the field, Yi Xian was a little confused. What the hell? P.S. Do you think the 5th chapter is over? Naive. 7017K. Chapter 2284. Left? Yi Xian was still in a state of confusion. His words just now seemed to have been referring to loneliness. As if something had occurred to him, Yi Xian hurriedly looked at the sword in his hand. The sword was 3 feet long and 2 fingers wide. It was entirely black, with a thin blade and a dark red tip. Judging from its appearance, it did not look beautiful at all. After Yi Xian carefully looked at it, the Xian energy in his body surged. The sword slightly trembled. A sword hummed soared into the sky and into the depths of the starry sky. Soon, Yi Xian slightly frowned because he discovered that this sword did not have a spirit. A sword without a spirit. That should not be the case. Yi Xian studied it again and finally accepted the truth. This really was a sword without a spirit. Yi Xian was speechless. Did Father specially find this sword for me? He was slightly suspicious of this now. At this moment, Elder Jun suddenly bowed slightly. Young Master, do you have any other instructions? Yi Xian retracted his thoughts and looked at Elder Jun. He thought for a moment and said, Do you have money? Elder Jun's expression froze. Yi Xian quickly said, Borrow. I'm borrowing, not taking. When the time comes, you can ask my father for reimbursement. Elder Jun was speechless. Reimbursement? Reimbursement my ass. Who doesn't know the relationship between young master and the sword master? If I lend it to you, will the sword master acknowledge it? At that time, if the sword master doesn't acknowledge it, and young master acts shamelessly, wouldn't my universe veins be wasted? This transaction cannot be done. Elder Jun thought for a moment and said, Young master, I don't have many universe veins. However, since young master needs them, I am willing to give young master 1 million universe veins. With that, he quickly said, This is for young master, there is no need to return it. Rather than saying borrow, it was better to say give. In any case, he wouldn't return it even if he borrowed it. By saying give, he could sell a favor. Hearing Elder Jun's words, Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and said, This, directly giving it to me, isn't that not good? Elder Jun was silent. If you know it's not good, then don't take it. At this time, Yi Xian suddenly said, Since this is Senior Jun's kind intention, if I refuse, wouldn't it disappoint Senior Jun's heart? As he spoke, he stretched out his right hand. Old Man Jun was speechless. You don't want to disappoint me, but my heart hurts. Mr. Jun was very straightforward. He took out a storage ring and handed it to Yi Xian. Yi Xian glanced at it and quickly accepted it. Then he bowed slightly. Thank you, Elder Jun. When I see my father, I'll make him return it to you. Old Man Jun blurted out, He won't. At this point, he hurriedly corrected himself. What I mean is, you don't have to return it, you don't have to return it. Yi Xian smiled. Thank you, Senior. Elder Jun nodded. Young master, take care. After speaking, he turned to leave. Yi Xian suddenly said, Senior, can you show me the way? After a moment of silence, Old Man Jun said, Go to the realm of gods. That is the stage for young masters. In this place, it's just a small fight. It's meaningless. As he spoke, he took out a scroll and handed it to Yi Xian. This is the map of the realm of gods. Yi Xian put the map away and smiled. Thank you. Old Man Jun smiled and whispered, The mystic sect is there. Young master, you can go and inherit the family property. Young master, we will meet again. As he spoke, he bowed slightly and disappeared into the depths of the starry sky. Inherit the family property? Yi Xian blinked his eyes. I don't have to go and get beaten up? At this moment, 20 extremely dreadful super strong people showed up next to Yi Xian. The mysterious leader bowed slightly. Young master, we will report to you in 2 hours. Obviously, this was left for him to deal with the Fey Sky clan. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian turned to look at Evil Lotus in the distance. Evil Lotus's expression was calm. No one knew what she was thinking. Evil Lotus's expression changed when she saw Yi Xian looking at her. She knew that the survival of the Fey Sky clan was in the hands of this young man. She had to admit that it was a little sad. She never thought that one day her life would be in the hands of someone else. Yi Xian suddenly said, Tianqi's mother. Evil Lotus quickly turned her head. Bring her here. One of the experts of the Fey Sky clan hurriedly retreated. Soon, a woman was brought to the scene. The woman's face was a little pale and her body was thin. When she saw Tianqi, she was slightly stunned. In the next moment, her body trembled and tears flowed down her cheeks. Tianqi was also looking at the woman. He clenched his fists tightly and tears glistened in his eyes. At this time, the woman trembled as she walked to Tianqi. She stretched out her trembling hand towards Tianqi's face. When she was about to touch Tianqi's face, she suddenly hugged him. Tears gushed out of the woman's eyes like a broken dam. She cried silently. At the side, Evil Lotus's expression was calm. No one knew what she was thinking. Tianqi's body was stiff and he was a little uncomfortable. Gradually, he hugged the woman. After a long time, the woman turned her head to look at Yi Xian and said softly, Thank you. She already knew that Evil Lotus had compromised because of this man. Yi Xian nodded slightly and looked at Evil Lotus. Evil Lotus bowed slightly. Young Master Yi, Yi Xian suddenly said, Kill him. Evil Lotus was stunned. Yi Xian blinked his eyes. You can't be so naive to think that I'll let you go after you apologize, right? Don't joke around. If apologizing was useful, why would I still cultivate? As soon as Yi Xian's voice fell, the experts beside him immediately rushed out. In the distance, Evil Lotus's expression was calm. It was abnormally calm. Seeing this, Yi Xian frowned slightly. At this time, Evil Lotus suddenly disappeared. Gone? Yi Xian was stunned. At this time, the leading old man beside Yi Xian suddenly said, Young master, this woman fled when the sword master left. What we saw just now was just a projection of her. Yi Xian said in a low voice, Can you catch up to her? The old man looked around and shook his head. I can't feel it. Hearing this, Yi Xian's expression darkened. At this time, Tianqi's mother suddenly said, She's from the demonic Phoenix clan. Yi Xian looked at the woman. Demonic Phoenix clan? The woman nodded. An ancient clan. Although they aren't as strong as before, they aren't weak. Yi Xian shook his head. She won't go back. After a moment of silence, the woman said softly, That's true. Yi Xian glanced at the experts of the Moon Devil Sky clan. Their expressions changed drastically when they saw Yi Xian look over, and their eyes were filled with fear. Yi Xian fell silent for a moment, and then he gazed at Tianqi and the woman. Tianqi, do you intend to stay here? Tianqi was slightly stunned, and then he gazed at the woman. She held Tianqi's hand tightly. Tianqi lowered his head slightly. Yi Xian walked up to Tianqi and said with a smile, Stay here and keep your mother company. As he spoke, he glanced at the experts of the Moon Devil Sky clan who stood behind Tianqi. Meanwhile, one of them hurriedly stepped forward. From this moment onward, Tianqi is the patriarch of our Moon Devil Sky clan. Patriarch. The experts of the Moon Devil Sky clan hurriedly chimed in. They weren't fools, so they naturally understood that if they didn't want Yi Xian to kill them, then there was only one way, and that was to make Tianqi the patriarch. Only then would the Moon Devil Sky clan be able to avoid this calamity. Yi Xian glanced coldly at the experts of the Sky Forsaken clan. How could he not understand their intentions? However, he couldn't be bothered to care about them out of respect for Tianqi. After all, he couldn't just slaughter all of them and make Tianqi a commander without an army, right? Yi Xian gazed at Tianqi and smiled, "Come look for me in the world of the gods when you're free." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Meanwhile, Tianqi suddenly said, "Big brother?" Yi Xian turned around and gazed at Tianqi. Tianqi strode over to Yi Xian, hesitated for a moment, and then withdrew a spatial ring and placed it in Yi Xian's hand. There were over 10 roasted goats within the spatial ring. Yi Xian was speechless at the sight of this. "You should have just given me some money." To the goats. He'd intended to rob the Moondevil Sky clan clean. They'd almost killed him, so he naturally couldn't let them off so easily. However, he hadn't done that because of Tianqi. "I should leave some for this fellow." Yi Xian still didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he gazed at the spatial ring. He put it away and patted Tianqi's shoulder lightly. "Take care." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left with Shi Tian and the others. As he watched Yi Xian and the others leave, Tianqi gazed up into the sky, and his gaze gradually lost focus. At this moment, his heart felt empty. On the other side, in the starry sky, Yi Xian gazed at Dao Ling and the others and smiled, "What about the rest of you?" Shi Tian fell silent for a moment before he said, "I want to return to the Shi clan. I haven't returned for a long time." Yi Xian nodded, "It's only right." As he spoke, he looked at Dao Ling. Dao Ling smiled and said, "I also want to go back and have a look. It's been too long since I've been out." Yi Xian smiled and turned to look at Xianxia. Xianxia was silent for a moment before he said, "I want to rebuild the evil spirit race." Yi Xian smiled and said, "In that case, we brothers will have to split up." Temporarily, Shi Tian suddenly said, "We will go to the divine realm to look for you." Dao Ling also said, "Yes, I hope you won't become weak when the time comes." Yi Xian laughed and said, "When you reach the divine realm, let's have a spar. What do you think?" Shi Tian smiled and said, "That's exactly what I wanted." Yi Xian nodded. "Let's go." Shi Tian nodded slightly. "Brothers, we'll meet again." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and disappeared into the starry sky. Dao Ling chuckled and walked in front of Yi Xian. He said seriously, "Brother Yi, can you lend me some time meridians? I will return them. I will definitely exchange them. I swear on my character." Yi Xian glared at Dao Ling angrily. "Scram. Hurry up and scram." Dao Ling. After Dao Ling was chased away, Yi Xian looked at Xianxia. Xianxia smiled and said, "Brother Yi, see you in the divine realm." As soon as he finished speaking, he also turned around and disappeared. Only Yi Xian was left in the field. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. Then he turned around and left. "Go to the divine realm. Do what? Inherit the family property. Everyone says that I am a second-generation heir. Today, I will not hide it anymore. Lay my cards on the table. I want to be a second-generation heir. Not only do I want to be a second-generation heir, I want to do it openly. Stupid things like getting beaten up in the next world must not happen again. This time, I, Yi Xian, want to return as the king. All heavens and realms, tremble." 7017K. Chapter 2285. Inheriting the Family Fortune. Yi Xian was delighted when he thought up to this point. He could finally stop being beaten up. Life wasn't just about fighting and killing. A happy life was about to begin. In the starry sky, Yi Xian gazed at the black-robed old man. "You're leaving?" The old man nodded. Yi Xian thought for a while. Then he said, "Who do you listen to, me and my father?" The old man's face froze. "That's a question of death." Yi Xian chuckled. "Is it very difficult to answer?" The black-robed old man laughed bitterly. "Young master, I'm an honest man." Yi Xian was at a loss for words. The black-robed old man hesitated for a moment and said, "Young master, feel free to let me know if you need anything." Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "I'm afraid it won't be safe on this trip. Why don't all of you send me there?" The black-robed old man grinned. "It's not a big deal. We're willing to escort you there. Yi Xian nodded. Thank you. The black-robed old man hurriedly said, Young master, please don't say that. You're overpraising me. Yi Xian smiled and said, Help me do something. Find that demon lotus from the demon sky clan. He naturally hadn't forgotten that woman. She was a woman who knew when to submit and when to stand tall. So, if he didn't kill her, there would be future troubles for him. The black-robed old man bowed slightly. Understood. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Yi Xian opened his palm, and the sword his father had given him appeared in his hand. Yi Xian poured his profound energy into it, and the sword started trembling slightly. A short moment later, he frowned because he noticed that he still hadn't noticed anything special about it. Did my father make it for me? Yi Xian was quite puzzled. Is my father tricking me? Yi Xian's face sank when he thought up to this point, because he felt that it was entirely possible. My father isn't human sometimes. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian suddenly tried to devour the sword. However, he was shocked to find that he couldn't devour it. Yi Xian looked at the sword in his hand in disbelief. After all, only the Qingxian sword could resist the devouring of his invincible sword physique. And this sword could actually not be devoured by him. He had some skill. Yi Xian scrutinized the sword in his hand again. A moment later, he suddenly slashed with his sword. This sword strike directly tore a huge hole in the starry sky that was tens of thousands of feet away. Yi Xian frowned because this sword did not have any buffs. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian said, Brother, do you want to show off? There was no response. Yi Xian sighed softly. The sword was definitely extraordinary, but he didn't know how extraordinary it was. What's wrong with my father? He gave me a sword in such a roundabout way. Yi Xian didn't continue thinking about it and put the sword away. Right at this moment, the black-robed old man suddenly appeared before Yi Xian. Yi Xian gazed at the black-robed old man. You found it? The black-robed old man nodded. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly. Did you kill him? The black-robed old man hesitated for a moment and said, No. Young master, you have to make a trip with me. Yi Xian frowned slightly. 15 minutes later, Yi Xian arrived at an expanse of ruins under the black-robed old man's lead. He saw Evil Lotus within the ruins. She was still wearing a black dress, and there was a trace of maturity amidst her beauty. Evil Lotus turned around to look at Yi Xian. Young Master Yi. Yi Xian said, You want to see me? Evil Lotus nodded. Yes. Yi Xian smiled and said, You wouldn't be thinking of deceiving me, right? Evil Lotus shook her head. Young Master Ye's wisdom is unparalleled. No one can deceive you. Yi Xian smiled and said, I'm slightly curious why you want to see me before you die. Evil Lotus looked at Yi Xian. I'm the only one who died. Don't pursue the matter with my family and my son, all right? Yi Xian fell silent. Evil Lotus grinned. What I did in the past has nothing to do with them. Yi Xian still fell silent. Evil Lotus bowed slightly. Thank you. Yi Xian smiled and said, I haven't promised you. Evil Lotus smiled and said, You will. Yi Xian frowned slightly. Evil Lotus continued, Because young Master Yi is a person who distinguishes between kindness and hatred. Yi Xian shook his head. Don't flatter me. Evil Lotus, don't make it seem like I'm a bad person. If I lost that day, then what would have happened to me? After saying that, he turned and left. Evil Lotus continued, Young Master Yi. In the distance, Yi Xian shook his head. I'm not interested in listening to your nonsense. As for you wanting to live, I can tell you clearly that it's impossible. Even if I have to use 3 swords, I will kill you. You, Evil Lotus suddenly said, 10 million universe veins. Yi Xian suddenly stopped. He turned and looked at Evil Lotus. I think it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. We can talk. Beside Yi Xian, the black-robed old man couldn't help but turn and look at Yi Xian. His eyes were filled with shock. Evil Lotus looked at Yi Xian. 10 million universe veins to buy my life. Yi Xian was silent for a while and said, The hatred between us can't be measured with money. Evil Lotus suddenly said, 15 million. 15 million. Yi Xian looked at Evil Lotus, and Evil Lotus' face was slightly pale. This is the limit of what I can offer. Yi Xian opened his palm. Evil Lotus hesitated for a moment and said, "Will you take off your pants and deny it?" Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Do you think this analogy is suitable?" Evil Lotus was speechless. At this moment, a black-robed man appeared beside Evil Lotus and passed a spatial ring to her. Evil Lotus took the spatial ring and passed it to Yi Xian. At this moment, her heart was bleeding. 15 million universe veins. This was her lifetime savings. It wasn't just her lifetime savings, there was also the support of the Black Phoenix race. If it wasn't for the support of the Black Phoenix race, she wouldn't have been able to gather so many universe veins. And to the Black Phoenix god race, it was also a bloodbath. Yi Xian put the spatial ring away and turned to leave. The black-robed old man was stunned, and then he said, "Young master, kill or..." Yi Xian glanced at Evil Lotus. "Will you take revenge?" Evil Lotus immediately said, "I'll never take revenge until young master Ye's father is dead." Yi Xian roared with laughter, and then he turned around and left. The black-robed old man hurriedly followed him. Yao Lian's expression eased up. "I'm alive." Meanwhile, the black-robed man hesitated for a moment and said, "Young miss, what you said just now..." Evil Lotus looked towards the distance and spoke softly. "He definitely wouldn't believe me if I said I wouldn't take revenge. I was telling him that I want to take revenge, but I don't have the ability to do so." The black-robed man nodded. "I understand." As he spoke, he hesitated for a moment and said, "Then the Demon Sky race." Evil Lotus shook her head. "We've lost." As she spoke, she turned to look at the sky and spoke softly, "That green-clothed man is so strong that he instills despair in me. Even I feel despair now." The black-robed man frowned slightly, and he was slightly puzzled. "Young miss?" Yi Xian was flying through the starry sky on his sword. He possessed 15 million universe veins. Needless to say, it was a huge sum of money to him. He had to have it, because he lacked universe veins the most right now. He was only at the time realm, and he wasn't even a ruler of time. There were reincarnators above the ruler of time, and there were even stronger reincarnators. Cultivation, however, required money. Meanwhile, the black-robed old man suddenly said, "Young master, do you know why that woman was able to survive?" Yi Xian frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" The black-robed old man spoke solemnly. "That woman wasn't simple at all. Actually, I wouldn't have been able to kill her by myself." Yi Xian gazed at the black-robed old man, and the black-robed old man spoke solemnly. "She should have truly attained the profound enlightenment realm." Yi Xian spoke solemnly. "The profound enlightenment realm?" The black-robed old man nodded. Yi Xian sighed softly and placed his hands on his head. The black-robed old man hesitated for a moment, then said, "It seems that young master isn't familiar with this realm." "It doesn't matter, I will explain it to young master." Yi Xian suddenly said, "Stop." The black-robed old man was stunned. Yi Xian shook his head. "Don't talk about realms, I'm annoyed. *CK realms." After saying that, he turned and left. The black-robed old man. It had to be said that Yi Xian was really annoyed. There were too many realms. It was so many that he felt it was seriously abnormal. The realm system was so chaotic, it was too outrageous. He didn't know which idiot did this. Yi Xian was speechless. There was also Qin Guan. Didn't Qin Guan want to sort out her realms? He didn't know how she was doing. Although it was annoying, Yi Xian still had to understand this knowing destiny state. Under the black-robed old man's explanation, Yi Xian had some understanding of this realm. Profound enlightenment. It was to know the way of Daoist's operation. All things in the world, their destinies and trajectories were all operated by Daoist, and this profound enlightenment referred to being able to know the trajectory of Daoist. Daoist was now a direction. It was the cultivation direction of some top powerhouses. There was no one who didn't want to get rid of Daoist and transcend the way of fate. Yi Xian didn't cultivate this profound enlightenment realm. He wanted to take it slow, steady. He had been too hasty in his previous cultivation. So he wanted to be steady now. Of course, the reason why he wanted to be steady was because he had the confidence. It was different from before. When he went to the next universe, he was basically beaten up. But this time was different. What was he going to do? He was going to inherit the family property. In the universe of gods, there was a huge family property waiting for him to inherit. This time he was going to act tough. Thinking of this, Xian couldn't help but smile happily. At this moment, he felt that this world was actually quite good. Life was beautiful everywhere. Not long after, Xian and the rest arrived at the universe of gods. Somewhere in the starry sky, the black-robed old man bowed to Xian. "Young master, the profound sect is not far ahead. We will take our leave." Xian nodded. "Let's go." The black-robed old man bowed again and retreated. Xian looked into the distance, smiled, then took out the profound ring and wore it. Then he walked into the distance. Not long after, Xian arrived at the profound sect, and when he arrived, he was stunned. At this moment, he was standing on a small hillside. On the hillside not far from him, there was a small hall. The hall was short and small. One of the doors was missing, and the pillars on the side were peeling off. If it wasn't for the crooked signboard above the door that said, "Profound Sect," he would have thought that he had come to the wrong place. At this moment, a sloppy old man suddenly walked out, and when he saw Xian, he was slightly stunned, and when he saw Xian, his face instantly changed. Then he directly rushed in front of Xian, hugged Xian's legs, and bawled, "Young master! Young master, you're here. If you didn't come, the dozen of us in the profound sect would starve to death. Young master?" As he cried, he suddenly twitched, and then his eyes rolled back, and he fell straight down. When Xian saw this, he was immediately dumbfounded. This guy, he was actually starving to the point of death. At this moment, another 7 or 8 people rushed out, and when they saw Xian, they directly rushed in front of him, and like the old man, they directly cried. Xian took a look, and he realized that these dozen people were actually ordinary people. All of them were ordinary people. Not a single cultivator. Xian's mind was instantly dumbfounded. Xian looked at the profound sect in the distance, and after a moment he suddenly raised his middle finger. "Old June, I'll hit your grandma's hammer." P.S. Chapter 7. What kind of joke is this? Is Chapter 7 worthy of my temperament? Chapter 7. Chapter 7. 7017K. Chapter 2286. Revenge. He knew that this was definitely old June's revenge. "Didn't I just cheat you of 1,000,000 universe veins? Do you have to do this?" Xian was on the verge of collapse. What the hell? At this moment, the sloppy old man who was hugging Xian suddenly said with a trembling voice, Young master, do you have anything to eat? I feel like I can't hold on." Xian. After a while, Xian stood in front of a statue in a dilapidated hall and was silent. This statue was his father's statue. It was also very dilapidated and incomplete. There was only one eye left. At the side, the sloppy old man and a dozen people were wolfing down their food. These people looked like they hadn't eaten for hundreds of years. The way they ate was scarier than heaven forsaking them. Xian looked at these people and was completely speechless. At this moment, he felt that his life was incomparably dark. What the hell? After a while, the sloppy old man and the others left after eating and drinking. The sloppy old man came in front of Xian and bowed deeply. "Young master." Xian nodded slightly and said, "Are you done eating?" The sloppy old man grinned. "I'm full." Xian smiled. "Tell me about the mystic sect and you guys." He felt that things shouldn't be so simple. Since these people were his father's people, they shouldn't be ordinary people. The sloppy old man hesitated and asked, "Young master, are you disappointed?" Xian looked at the sloppy old man and smiled. "Why do you say so?" The sloppy old man smiled bitterly. Young master's expression and eyes are filled with disappointment. It is obvious that we are completely different from what young master had imagined. Xian nodded slightly. "I won't hide it from you. You guys are indeed a bit different from what I had imagined. The old tower old man smiled. I understand. Saying that, he bowed slightly. Young master, follow me. Saying that, he brought Yi Xian and walked towards the side hall. Yi Xian was curious and followed him. When the old man opened the door to the side hall, Yi Xian was stunned. The inside of the side hall was very, very large. It was thousands of feet long and wide, and there were no less than 1,000,000 ancient scrolls placed inside. Library? Yi Xian was stunned for a moment before he turned to look at the old man. These are? The sloppy old man said seriously, Universe Encyclopedia. Yi Xian frowned. Universe Encyclopedia? The old man nodded. The 10 of us are responsible for writing the Universe Encyclopedia. There are many categories here. There's the civilization category, which records all the known civilizations in the universe. There's also the humanities category, the martial arts category, the realms category. In any case, other than Wuxia College, we have the most comprehensive and the most powerful. Yi Xian was surprised. Wuxia Academy. The sloppy old man nodded. Celestial Treasure Pavilion was founded by Pavilion Master Qin Guan. Hearing this, Yi Xian shook his head and smiled. The sloppy old man suddenly wanted to say something but hesitated. Yi Xian smiled and asked, What's wrong? The sloppy old man smiled bitterly. To be honest, Sword Master hasn't given us a salary for more than 20 years. Yi Xian was speechless. The sloppy old man's smile became even more bitter. Young master? Yi Xian asked, How much do you get a year? The sloppy old man said, I get 100 universe veins a year. The rest get dozens of them a year. Yi Xian was silent. The sloppy old man glanced at Yi Xian and didn't dare to say anything else. Yi Xian suddenly walked to a bookshelf at the side. Realms category. Yi Xian was curious and picked up a thick ancient book. At this moment, the sloppy old man suddenly said, Inside are all the realms of the known universe. All realms of the known universe. Yi Xian nodded slightly and opened the ancient book. Four-dimensional universe, body tempering realm, force training realm, internal strong realm, dual cultivation realm, endless realm, chi change realm, golden body realm, chi controlling realm, high sky realm, nether passage realm, divine combination realm, 10,000 dharma realm, true 10,000 dharma realm, law controlling realm, true law controlling realm, void piercing realm, origin realm, in realm, supreme realm, sage realm, creation realm, Dao realm, beginning Dao realm, knowing realm, Dao proving realm, Dao mastering realm, Tendo realm, emperor realm, God realm, end realm, peak end realm, seal ascension realm, unknown realm, creation realm, earth immortal realm, fate realm, life breaking realm, Dao seeking realm, Dao entry realm, Dao breaking realm, Dao extermination realm, five-dimensional universe. Origin realm, universe realm, yin-yang realm, life and death realm, heaven's legacy realm, karma realm, rebirth realm, sovereign realm, shattering void realm, origin return realm, void release realm, Dao breaking realm, Dao proving realm, Dao controlling realm, Dao attainment realm, six-dimensional universe, nine-dimensional universe, consolidation realm, divine mirror realm, eternal realm, immortal ascension realm, heavenly ascension realm, mortal destruction realm, pericelestial realm, transcendent realm, deity breaking realm, deity destroying realm, concept realm, eternity realm, critical boundary realm, boundless realm, void realm, heaven ascension realm, transcendence realm, space-time realm, small saint realm, great saint realm, ancient god realm, body sculpting realm, personality sculpting realm, soul sculpting realm, jump out of the universe, God Emperor realm, divine clone realm, divine soul realm, level 1 to level 20, seamless realm, seamless path, divine spirit realm, fate chart realm, life spirit realm, primordial spirit realm, fate knowing saint, fate knowing god, swordsman realm, swordsman, great swordsman, sword, grandmaster, sword master, sword emperor, sword celestial, great sword celestial, sword saint, transcendent sword saint, sword god, transcendent sword god, common sword, unrestrained sword heart, sword transformation, mortal realm, heart sword power, calm heart, focus. 9th level civilizations: heartless, thoughtless, bodiless, soulless, Daoist, non-universe origin realm. Inside circle, break circle, draw circle great Motian domain, mental connection, Dao Ming, embodiment of freedom 6 realms, breaking realm Dao gathering, prying into the profound, understanding profound, life profound metaverse, eternal heart, 1 to 6, ancient universe, half-step sacred heart, true divine, immortal realm, eternal immortal realm, supreme immortal realm observing the dark universe, boundless realm, quantitative change realm, qualitative change realm, half-step visualization realm, external appearance realm, internal perception realm, time realm transcending time immortal, time controller, reincarnation walker, understanding profound. Seeing these realms, Yi Xian was stunned. So many? Beside him, the sloppy old man said, "There are many realms, and they are messy. In fact, many realms are redundant, and there is no need for them to exist. However, because Pavilion Master Qingguan has reorganized them, we did not do them again." Yi Xian said, "Who came up with these realms?" The sloppy old man said, "Strictly speaking, it should be the Daoist." Yi Xian could not help but say, "Is there something wrong with this? Came up with so many realms. Is there something wrong with its brain?" The Daoist. The sloppy old man hesitated, and then said, "Young master, the Daoist moves the path of the great path, transcending everything. Be careful with your words." Yi Xian shook his head, closed the ancient book, and then said, "This is ridiculous." The sloppy old man smiled slightly. "Actually, it is still okay now. Pavilion Master Qingguan has already sent the realms she organized to the various realms, and now she has removed almost 70% of the realms. I have taken a look, and I feel that it is very, very good." Speaking of this, he shook his head and smiled. "I have to say, this Qingguan is really an extraordinary person. Her talent really makes me admire her, the kind that I would prostrate myself in admiration." Yi Xian smiled and then walked to the next bookshelf. He picked up an ancient book and looked at it. After a while, his expression gradually became solemn, and soon he went to the next bookshelf. In this way, Yi Xian looked at more than a dozen bookshelves in one go. Shocking! This was Yi Xian's current mood at the moment. The wide range of knowledge in these bookshelves, the depth of these books, deeply shocked Yi Xian. In particular, some of the cultivation methods were so detailed that it made his scalp tingle a little. Yi Xian turned to look at the sloppy old man. "These were all written by a dozen of you?" The sloppy old man nodded. "Yes." Saying that, he hesitated, and then said, "Young master, is there anything that was not written well? If it is not written well, please give us a pointer or two." Pointer. Yi Xian thought about it, and then said seriously, "There are indeed many shortcomings." The sloppy old man hurriedly asked, "What shortcomings?" Yi Xian thought about it again, and then said, "Let's talk about this another day." The sloppy old man was speechless. Yi Xian suddenly said, "How should I address you, senior?" The sloppy old man hurriedly said, "Young master, I don't dare to call you senior. You can just call me Yi Xian." Yi Xian nodded slightly. "Elder Xian, my father gave you over 100 universe veins a year, right?" Elder Xian nodded, "Yes. However, Sword Master would give more every time. Moreover, Sword Master would think of ways to help us obtain some of our academic materials. Not only that, Sword Master would also give us some elixirs to increase our lifespans. Sword Master originally wanted us to cultivate, and then he would provide us with cultivation resources. Unfortunately, we don't like to cultivate and only like to do academic research." Yi Xian smiled, and then he took out a storage ring and handed it to Elder Xian. Elder Xian glanced at it, and there were 4,000 universe veins in the storage ring. Seeing so many universe veins, Elder Xian's expression instantly changed. "Young master, this," Yi Xian smiled, "this is what you deserve." As he spoke, he took out another storage ring and handed it to Elder Xian. This is for those who follow you to do academic research. Elder Xian glanced at it, and then he bowed deeply to Yi Xian. Thank you, young master. Yi Xian was slightly moved. Father really got a great bargain. These people were really geniuses. Although they didn't know how to cultivate, these people were extremely knowledgeable. 1 or 200 universe veins a year was really too little. However, he didn't immediately give a high price. This had to be done slowly. In any case, he wouldn't mistreat Elder Xian and the others. As if he thought of something, Yi Xian suddenly said, "Next, I will study these with you." As he spoke, he paused for a moment and then said, "I will also give you some pointers." The sloppy old man was stunned, and then he hurriedly said, "That's great." Yi Xian glanced at the scene and took a deep breath. He decided to read more books. Pretending wasn't scary, what was scary was pretending to be cultured. P.S. Chapter 8. Some readers said that the explosion wouldn't exceed 8 chapters. What a joke! 8 chapters? Are you looking down on me? Those who said no more than 8 chapters, come out and apologize. Thank you. 7017K. Chapter 2287. Following Yi Xian's arrival, the Xian sect had undergone earth-shattering changes. All of them were filled with energy, because they could eat their fill, and their salaries had increased. At that moment, the dozens of people in the Xian sect were full of energy. And Yi Xian would study with Yi Xian and the others every day, writing books together. Of course, he would only watch and occasionally give some pointers. It must be said that Yi Xian admired Yi Xian and the others a lot. Yi Xian and the others didn't cultivate, but their knowledge was terrifying. These guys were proficient in astronomy, geography, space civilization, cultivation system, mystic arts. For example, they didn't cultivate, but they knew more about these realms than those who did. Shocking. After interacting with Yi Xian and the others, Yi Xian was deeply shocked. These people's knowledge was probably only second to Qingguan. And during this period of study, Yi Xian also gained a lot. He now deeply believed that studying was useful. And Yi Xian also found that he seemed to like the feeling of reading. Cultivating one's mind. Reading could truly calm his heart, to think, to comprehend, to understand the world and the universe, to feel the thoughts of others. In life, there were many times when one should stop to calm his heart and settle down. Life wasn't just fighting and killing. Yi Xian was lying at the entrance of the Xian sect's main hall, holding an ancient book in his hand. The warm sunlight shone on his body, warming him up. The ancient book in his hand was called 36 Yin-Yang Techniques. Yi Xian was enjoying it. At this moment, Yi Xian walked over with a cup of tea. The ancient book in Yi Xian's hand suddenly turned into a human geography book. Yi Xian walked to Yi Xian's side and bowed. "Young master, please have some tea." Yi Xian took the cup and took a sip, then smiled. "Elder Yi, is there anything I can help you with?" Yi Xian wanted to say something but stopped. Yi Xian smiled. "Just say it." Yi Xian said, "Young master, we need some funds to buy some ancient books." Yi Xian was a little curious. "Ancient book?" Yi Xian nodded. "That's right. Some ancient books recorded some unknown civilizations or ancient martial techniques. They have great research value." Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "That's a good thing. I'll go with you. Don't worry about money, I'll deal with it." Hearing that, Yi Xian was extremely excited. He immediately bowed deeply to Yi Xian and said with a trembling voice, "Young master, thank you." Yi Xian smiled and said, "What are you thanking me for? What you're doing is benefiting all living beings in the universe. It's a great merit, a great fortune, and the significance is great." Yi Xian hesitated for a moment before he said, "Young master, are you willing to publicize the results of our research? And for free?" Yi Xian nodded. "Of course." Hearing this, Yi Xian immediately bowed deeply. "Young master is kind. That's great." Yi Xian grinned. "I intend to establish an academy and gather even more scholars to join us." As he spoke, he looked up into the sky and spoke softly, "All along the way, I noticed that countless cultivators are too vicious. Everyone starts fighting at the slightest disagreement, and it's either you or me who dies. This world shouldn't be like that. If everyone in the world reads as much as I do, then this world would be much better. Ji Xian bowed deeply to Yi Xian once more. We're willing to assist you, young master. Yi Xian smiled, and then he gazed at the plaque above him. He thought for a moment before he said, We'll establish an academy that strives to improve the vicious aura in the universe. There's no order or rules in the world, so it causes people to be impetuous and prioritize profit over everything. Our academy's objective is to establish a will for the universe, establish a life for all living beings, continue the techniques of the past sages, and establish peace for all ages. Create order and establish peace. Ji Xian hurriedly said, That's great. Yi Xian grinned. Let's call it Guan Xian Academy. Guan Xian Academy. Ji Xian nodded. But Yi Xian suddenly stood up. Aren't we going to purchase ancient books? Come, I'll go with you. Ji Xian hurriedly said, Young master, please. In a carriage. Ji Xian and the others didn't know how to cultivate, so wherever they went, they would take a carriage, and it was the only carriage. This time, Ji Xian only brought a young girl with him. This young girl was his disciple, named Xianxia. He had just taken her in not long ago, and she almost starved to death the moment she arrived. Because of this, Xianxia was skinny, but she was in good spirits, holding an ancient book in her hand at all times. Yi Xian and Xianxia sat in the carriage, while Ji Xian drove the carriage. This was specially arranged by Ji Xian, hoping that Xianxia could learn from Yi Xian. In Ji Xian's heart, this young master was knowledgeable and wise. Xianxia sat opposite Yi Xian, looking a little reserved. Yi Xian looked at Xianxia. Xianxia was about 15 or 16 years old, wearing a green robe. He was skinny, but he was full of vigor. Yi Xian smiled. Don't be nervous. Xianxia nodded slightly, but he seemed even more nervous. Yi Xian glanced at the ancient book in Xianxia's hand, then asked, What book are you reading? Xianxia hesitated, then said softly, The Golden Mean. Yi Xian smiled. The book says that sincerity is the highest realm in life. Do you think it's right? Xianxia thought for a while, then said, Yes. Xianxia said seriously, Only sincerity can guide the world, establish the foundation of the world, and know the evolution of heaven and earth. The path of sincerity will lead to the supreme realm. Young master, if you want to establish your heart for the universe, establish your life for all living beings, inherit the supreme knowledge for the saints, establish peace for all ages, create order, and build peace, you must be sincere. If you treat the universe with sincerity, the universe will treat you with sincerity. Yi Xian was silent. Xianxia hesitated, then said, Am I wrong? Yi Xian smiled. You're right. However, you have to remember one thing. The hearts of people in this world are very complicated. People need to be sincere to each other, but they also need to be vigilant. As the sages said, we must not have the heart to harm others, but we must be vigilant. We should treat good people with sincerity, but we should treat bad people with sincerity. Saying that, he smiled, but didn't say anything. Xianxia hesitated, then said, To treat bad people, we should use kindness and love to influence them, right? Yi Xian was silent. Xianxia glanced at Yi Xian cautiously. Am I wrong? Yi Xian thought for a while, then said, What if kindness and love can't influence them? Xianxia's right hand suddenly clenched the ancient book in her hand. Her eyes were full of determination. Kill them. Kill them. Yi Xian was stunned. He was somewhat shocked. Yi Xian looked at Xianxia in front of him. She still looked so weak, but her eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. Yi Xian was silent. His intuition told him that this young lady's future was not simple. Studying was not scary, but it was scary to become a bookworm. No matter how knowledgeable one was, they would still be pedantic. Yi Xian thought for a while, then said, Do you want to cultivate? Xianxia blinked. Can I? Yi Xian nodded. If you want, you can. Xianxia was still hesitant. But cultivation costs money. Our college is very poor. Yi Xian laughed. It's okay. If you want to cultivate, I will take care of the money. Qin Qiu blinked. Can I? Yi Xian nodded. Qin Qiu stood up and bowed deeply to Yi Xian. Thank you, young master. Yi Xian smiled and did not think much of it. But what he did not know was that his little act of kindness today would lead to the birth of a peerless empress in the future. Qin Qiu Empress. Dual cultivation of literature and martial arts. That era was also known as the most glorious era of the universe after the Three Swords era. Countless cultivators were fortunate to be born in that era because after the Three Swords era ended, the vast universe fell into a long period of darkness. Martial arts collapsed and civilization was interrupted. That era was known as the darkest era in history. Until the appearance of this Qin Qiu Empress, Yi Xian would never have thought that his small act of kindness today would reap great benefits for his descendants even though he did not reap the fruits of his kindness. After chatting with Yi Xian, Qin Qiu was no longer as nervous. He would often consult Yi Xian on some questions, including academic questions and martial arts questions. As for academic questions, Yi Xian would naturally bluff. To be honest, in terms of academic knowledge, he was not as good as Qin Qiu. This made him feel ashamed. Of course, although he was not as knowledgeable as Qin Qiu, he had regained his confidence in cultivation. The two of them chatted happily. Of course, most of the time, it was Qin Qiu who consulted Yi Xian. Unknowingly, the three of them arrived at one of the three major cities in the universe of gods, Immortal City. The universe of gods had 4 worlds and 3 cities. The 4 worlds were Hill World, Mountain World, Mysterious World, and Yunjia. The 3 cities were Immortal City, Heavenly Speech City, and Eternal City. Yi Xian looked at the Immortal City in front of him. He had to admit that it was really grand. The gates of the city walls were bigger than the entire mysterious sect hall. Qin Qiu looked at the Immortal City in front of him curiously. After the 3 of them entered the city, they instantly became a strange scene. Ordinary people? On both sides of the street, some people looked at Yi Xian and the other 2 curiously. In this era, basically everyone cultivated. In other words, ordinary people would only appear in those low-level worlds. Completely ordinary people like Yi Xian and the other 2 were very rare to see. As Yi Xian concealed his aura, in the eyes of others, he was also an ordinary person. Qin Qiu looked around curiously. Young master, why are they all looking at us? Yi Xian said with a smile, because they are all very powerful, while we are not. Qin Qiu blinked and didn't seem to understand. Soon, the 3 of them came to a small building. After entering the small building, Yi Xian found that the small building was a bookstore. In this bookstore, there were some ancient books. In this bookstore, there were many people reading books. Moreover, some of them were time immortals. Young master, please wait for a moment. I will go and find the owner. Shu Xian said. After saying that, he walked towards a distance. Yi Xian looked around curiously. In the end, he brought Qin Qiu to a bookshelf. He took down an ancient book and started reading. Qin Qiu also wanted to read, but Yi Xian quickly put it away. You can't read this. Yi Xian blinked his eyes. Why? Qin Qiu blinked his eyes. Yi Xian said solemnly, only people like me, who are calm and have a pure heart, will not be influenced by such ancient books. Qin Qiu giggled. Young master, you're not serious at all. Yi Xian was speechless. At this moment, Shu Xian walked back with a bitter expression. Yi Xian asked, what's wrong? Shu Xian smiled bitterly. If we want to see their boss, we have to make an appointment. I just made an appointment. Their boss might only see us after 3 days. Yi Xian frowned slightly when he heard this, and then he glanced at the surroundings. He noticed that all the people who were reading had someone serving them warmly, but there wasn't a single person around the 3 of them. He chose to ignore them. Qin Qiu gently pulled on Yi Xian's sleeve and said softly, is it because we are poor that we are not valued? Yi Xian was silent. How should I answer you? P.S. Chapter 9. Was it over? Bullsh*T. ending with just 9 chapters? Was that considered a breakthrough? Wouldn't that be fooling the readers? Zhang Lai. Continue. 7017K. Chapter 2288. Qing Qiu looked at Yi Xian, waiting for his answer. Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "You're right." Qing Qiu lowered his head slightly. Yi Xian rubbed Qing Qiu's head gently and said with a smile, "Don't be sad, this is the reality of society. When you're weak, they look down on you. When you're rich, they envy you." Qing Qiu nodded, "Understood." At the side, Shu Xian sighed softly. Yi Xian said with a smile, "It's okay. Elder Xian, you're knowledgeable, so it's normal that you're not good at these things. However, I suggest you go out and have a look. The universe is vast, and you'll gain a lot from it. As the saying goes, reading 10,000 books is not as good as walking 10,000 miles." Shu Xian bowed slightly, "I've learned something." Yi Xian smiled, then he walked to a steward in the distance. The steward glanced at Yi Xian with a calm expression. "What's the matter?" Yi Xian said with a smile, "Can I see your boss?" The steward shook his head. "No. You have to make an appointment first." Yi Xian smiled slightly, then opened his palm, and a storage ring silently flew to the steward. The steward was stunned when he saw it. 100 universe veins. Yi Xian smiled slightly. "Please inform him." The steward's originally cold face suddenly showed a trace of a smile. "Young master, please wait a moment." With that he turned and left. Not long after, the steward returned with a smile. "Young master, the club master invites you. Please go upstairs." Yi Xian said with a smile, "Thank you." The steward smiled slightly. "You're welcome." Yi Xian led Qing Qiu and Shu Xian upstairs. Qing Qiu suddenly pulled Yi Xian's sleeve. "Is this what they mean by money makes the world go round?" Yi Xian smiled slightly. "Let's put it another way. This is the wisdom of the world." Qing Qiu frowned slightly. "The ways of the world?" Yi Xian nodded. "To walk in this society, apart from possessing great strength, you also need to learn the ways of the world. Read more books, do more things." Qing Qiu nodded thoughtfully. Soon, the three of them arrived at the second pavilion. Within the second pavilion, the three of them saw an old man. The old man's hair and beard were completely white. At this moment he was holding a thick ancient book and reading it with great interest. Beside Yi Xian, Shu Xian cupped his fists. "Dojo Master Yu, nice to meet you. I am Xianzong's Shu Xian." Headmaster Yu put down the ancient book and glanced at Shu Xian. "What's the matter?" Shu Xian hurriedly said, "I heard that your academy has the 12 Song's history scrolls. We would like to buy them for research. I wonder if Headmaster Yu is willing to sell them?" Dojo Master Yu immediately shook his head. "I'm not willing." Shu Xian was stunned. He didn't expect the other party to reject him so directly. Shu Xian naturally did not want to give up just like that. He immediately said, "Master Yu, the price is negotiable." Dojo Master Yu glanced at Shu Xian. "Negotiable? Then tell me, how do you want to negotiate?" Shu Xian hesitated for a while and then said, "You can state a price." Dojo Master Yu shook his head. "You can't afford it." Shu Xian, beside Yi Xian, Qing Qiu said softly, "Young master, does he think that we are poor?" Yi Xian nodded. Qing Qiu frowned slightly. "If we are rich, he will treat us differently, right?" Yi Xian smiled. "What do you think?" Qing Qiu was silent for a while before saying, "Young master, why do you respect master so much? Master is poor, but I feel that you really respect him." Yi Xian chuckled. "Because your young master was poor in the past. Moreover, Elder Xian is knowledgeable. He is worthy of respect." As he said, he walked to Shu Xian. Shu Xian smiled bitterly and was about to speak when Yi Xian smiled. "You are using the wrong method." Shu Xian was stunned. "Using the wrong method?" Yi Xian turned and walked to Dojo Master Yu. He took out a storage ring and placed it in front of Dojo Master Yu. There were 100 universe veins in it. Dojo Master Yu glanced at it and frowned. "You want to humiliate me?" Yi Xian took out another storage ring. There were 1,000 universe veins in the storage ring. Dojo Master Yu stared at Yi Xian with undisguised anger. What kind of person do you think the old man is? Yi Xian didn't speak. He silently took out another storage ring and placed it in front of Dojo Master Yu. This time, there were 10,000 universe veins in the storage ring. Dojo Master Yu was slightly stunned. He clearly hadn't expected that the young man in front of him could take out 10,000 universe veins. However, he was still very tough. Dojo Master Yu stared at Yi Xian with a mocking smile. The old man hates people like you who think you can do whatever you want just because you have some money. Yi Xian suddenly took out a storage ring and placed it on the table. There were 1 million universe veins in the storage ring. 1 million. How terrifyingly huge was this wealth? It could be said that even if he sold books for 100,000 years, he wouldn't be able to obtain 1 million universe veins. When Dojo Master Yu saw the 1 million universe veins in the storage ring, it was as if he had been struck by lightning. He was petrified on the spot. 1 million universe veins. 1 million. He had never seen so many universe veins in his entire life. Yi Xian looked at Dojo Master Yu with a calm expression. Dojo Master Yu gulped and then said, "Young master, please sit. Let's talk in detail. Servants, serve tea. Serve my top-grade immortal spirit tea." Yi Xian suddenly put away the storage ring on the table and turned to look at Shu Xian and Qin Qiu. "Let's go." Shu Xian nodded. "Okay." The three of them left. Dojo Master Yu was stunned. Then he said angrily, "You dare to play with me?" Yi Xian turned to look at Dojo Master Yu and frowned. "Play with you? Did I?" Dojo Master Yu stared fixedly at Yi Xian with killing intent in his eyes. Yi Xian said seriously, "We came to buy books. Now we won't buy them. Is there a problem?" Dojo Master Yu's expression suddenly became calm. "No problem." At this moment, three mysterious experts suddenly appeared behind Yi Xian's group. Their auras weren't weak. They were all time walkers. They hadn't even reached the time immortal realm. Yi Xian glanced at the three of them, and then he looked at Dojo Master Yu. "Dojo Master Yu, what's the meaning of this? We are all scholars. Do you want to use force?" Dojo Master Yu was expressionless. "Leave the storage ring and leave." "Robbery." Shu Xian couldn't help but say angrily, "How can you do this? This is simply indecent. Shameless. Shameless." Poor Shu Xian. Even though he read a lot of books, he didn't have many words to curse at. Yi Xian sighed softly. "Dojo Master Yu, we are all scholars. We should be reasonable. Do you think it's appropriate for you to do this?" The three mysterious experts behind Yi Xian were about to make a move, but they were stopped by Dojo Master Yu. Dojo Master Yu looked at Yi Xian with apprehension. Is this guy pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Thinking of this, Dojo Master Yu was shocked and broke out in cold sweat. This isn't normal. Can an ordinary person take out 1 million universe veins so casually? Can he? That was obviously impossible. Only those top forces could take out 1 million universe veins so easily. Most importantly, after his people had appeared, this young man was actually so calm and composed. Why is he so calm? Strength or background? Thinking of this, Dojo Master Yu completely calmed down. At this moment, he was sure that this young man was definitely pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. He wanted to show off. Thinking of this, Dojo Master Yu suddenly glared at the three experts. "Who let you come out? Get lost." The three powerhouses were shocked when they heard this. What the hell? Dojo Master Yu suddenly flew into a rage. "What are you looking at? Get lost." The three experts looked at each other. They were still confused, but they didn't dare to ask. They immediately retreated. Next to Yi Xian, Shu Xian frowned. He was puzzled. Qin Qiu glanced at Yi Xian beside her and covered her mouth as she chuckled. Yi Xian looked at Dojo Master Yu with a calm expression. Dojo Master Yu looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "Young master, it was just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding." Saying this, he took out a storage ring. "This is the 12 books of ancient history. I'll give it to you as a gift to make a friend." Yi Xian hesitated and waved the storage ring in his hand. Don't you want to rob me? 1,000,000 universe veins. Dojo Master Yu said seriously, what are you talking about, young master? We are all scholars. How can we act like robbers? Do you think the old man has read so many books for nothing? The old man has justice in his heart. The old man's values are very correct. Yi Xian was speechless. This idiot didn't follow the rules. What should I do? I can't act tough anymore. Dojo Master Yu quickly said, Young master, I did offend you just now. Please forgive me. I'll bow to you. I'm sorry. Saying this, he bowed deeply to Yi Xian. After bowing, he bowed to Shu Xian. I didn't treat you well just now. Please forgive me. I'm very sorry. Seeing this, Shu Xian quickly said, No. It's okay. It's a small matter. You don't have to be like this. Dojo Master Yu smiled. You should be someone who has a lot of knowledge. I have some basic ancient books here. I wonder if you're interested in studying them together? Hearing this, Shu Xian was overjoyed. Ancient books? Dojo Master Yu nodded. Yes. Shu Xian bowed. Thank you. Dojo Master Yu hurriedly pulled Shu Xian to the bookshelf. On the spot, Qiao looked at Yi Xian and smiled. Young master, the development of the story seems to be different from what you imagined, right? Yi Xian smiled. What should the original plot be like? Qiao thought for a while and said, I think he wanted to rob young master. But young master suddenly showed great strength and robbed him instead. Not only did he benefit from it, but it was also justifiable. He wouldn't have any psychological burden. Yi Xian glanced at Qiao. He didn't say anything, but he was shocked. Qiao smiled. It seems that reading is useful. Because by reading, one's brain will be sharper. One can analyze things and predict blessings and misfortunes, right? Yi Xian nodded. That's right. Saying so, he looked at Dojo Master Yu and said softly, This enemy has suddenly become smart. Why am I suddenly not used to it? I really miss those enemies who wanted to kill me at the slightest disagreement. Not only did they want to kill me, but they also wanted to kill my entire family. When Yi Xian spoke, he did not lower his voice. Hence, Dojo Master Yu could hear him clearly. At this moment, he was sweating profusely. Damn it. This idiot just wanted to act cool. Luckily, he didn't act cool. Too scary. P.S. Chapter 10. What is an outburst? Is less than 10 chapters considered outburst? I hate those authors who say that they are outburst after a few chapters. Seriously. From today onwards, I will set a benchmark. Anything less than 10 chapters is not outburst. 7017K. Chapter 2289. Club owner You saw them off in person. Yi Xian and the other two left the library. Watching Yi Xian and the other two leave, Master Yu felt relieved. Meanwhile, an old man walked over to Dojo Lord Yu's side, and the old man hesitated for a moment before he said, Dojo Lord, should we investigate that young man? Master Yu shook his head. No need. The old man was puzzled. Why? Master Yu said softly. He's someone we can't afford to offend. What's the difference if we investigate him or not? The old man said in a low voice. I don't see anything special about that young man. Master Yu said softly. That's why you're working for me. Then he turned and left. The old man was speechless. In the distance, Shu Xian was holding the 12 volumes of history as if he had obtained a treasure. He was beaming with joy and excitement along the way. Qiao, on the other hand, looked around curiously. She had never been to such a prosperous place before. Therefore, she was very curious about everything she saw at this moment. Suddenly, Yi Xian brought the two of them to a noodle stall. Yi Xian smiled. Boss, give me 3 bowls of noodles and 3 eggs. But in the distance, the boss shouted and started to get busy. Qiao looked at Yi Xian curiously, his eyes filled with curiosity. Yi Xian smiled. Why are you looking at me? Qiao giggled. Young master, I suddenly feel that you're very handsome. Yi Xian gently tapped Qiao's head. Don't tell me the truth. Shu Xian. Xianxia covered her mouth and giggled. Soon, 3 bowls of noodles were served. Looking at the 3 bowls of noodles in front of him, Yi Xian suddenly fell silent. Xianxia said softly, "What's wrong?" Yi Xian smiled. "I miss my sister. Yiling." He hadn't seen Yiling for a long time. Xianxia hesitated and said, "Can I be your sister too?" Yi Xian looked at Xianxia and said with a smile, "My sisters are very powerful." Xianxia's expression dimmed as he lowered his head slightly. Yi Xian smiled and said, "Are you not confident?" Xianxia looked up abruptly. "Yes." Yi Xian laughed. Xianxia suddenly said, "Brother young master, I will definitely be the strongest among all your sisters." Yi Xian blinked. "The difficulty is a little high." Xianxia asked seriously, "Is it very high?" Nodding his head, Yi Xian took out a pair of chopsticks and placed it before Xianxia with a smile. "You don't have to be the best, but you can make it unique." After a moment of silence, Xianxia said, "I understand." After that, she picked up the bowl of noodles in front of her and started to eat. Although Xianxia looked gentle and quiet, his eating could be called wild. A bowl of noodles was already finished in less than 3 breaths of time. Her eating speed was comparable to Tianqi's. This was ridiculous. She was starving. After eating, Xianxia noticed Yi Xian was looking at her, and she blushed. Yi Xian smiled and said, "Do you want more?" Xianxia nodded and put up a finger. Yi Xian smiled and said, "Boss, give me another bowl." Xianxia smiled. 10 bowls." Yi Xian was taken aback, then shook his head and smiled. "You are too hasty." Soon, 10 bowls of noodles were served. Yi Xian looked at Xianxia who was wolfing down the food in front of him, and his heart suddenly became very calm. Is cultivation a battle? Does cultivation mean seclusion to comprehend? Does cultivation mean that I have to constantly force myself? The above 3 methods were his cultivation methods all along. But at this moment he suddenly felt that life was also cultivation. The fickleness of human nature was also a kind of cultivation for the heart. If he didn't calm down, how could he discover so many beautiful things around him? Just like at this moment, looking at Xianxia wolfing down the food, he felt that it was very beautiful. At this moment, the sound of footsteps suddenly interrupted Yi Xian's thoughts. Yi Xian turned around and saw a woman walking towards him slowly from not far away. The woman had a voluptuous figure, and her steps were light. She wore a snow-white dress with a purple chiffon on the outside, and a dark purple belt around her waist. Her eyes were like water, but there was a touch of coldness in them, as if she could see through everything. Behind the woman, there were 12 golden armored guards. These 12 golden armored guards had a profound aura, and they were all Rebirth Walker realm. Rebirth Walker realm. Needless to say, this was very scary. It should be noted that the highest realm that Yi Xian knew was mysterious awareness. Her strength was extraordinary. Yi Xian looked at the woman walking towards him, and he suddenly felt very happy. It was obvious that this beautiful woman had discovered his uniqueness in this vast crowd, and had come to make friends with him. Yi Xian sighed in his heart. Although he had tried his best to keep a low profile, outstanding people were outstanding no matter where they went. Just like gold, it would shine no matter where it was. At this moment, the woman walked to Yi Xian and Xianxia's side. Yi Xian was about to get up, but the woman suddenly looked at Xianxia. "Are you willing to follow me?" Yi Xian was stunned. "Not here to look for me? What the hell?" Xianxia was also stunned. It was obvious that she had not expected this woman to be here to look for her. Around them, people exclaimed, "It's the immortal ancient heaven." The immortal ancient heaven. The young city lord of the immortal ancient city, the most talented person in the immortal ancient city, and the youngest mysterious awareness realm cultivator in the immortal ancient city. At the same time, she was one of the 2 beauties of the immortal universe. In the eyes of countless people, she was a perfect fair-skinned, rich, and beautiful woman. She had the looks, the strength, and the family background. At this moment, when the crowd found out that it was the immortal ancient heaven, They all looked at Xianxia with envy. It was obvious that the young city lord of the immortal ancient city had taken a fancy to Xianxia. Xianxia was stunned by Xian Gudian's question. After a while, she came to her senses and hurriedly looked at Yixian. Yixian smiled. This lady thinks highly of you and wants you to follow her. Are you willing? Xianxia got up and bowed slightly to Xian Gudian. Thank you for thinking highly of me, but, as she spoke, she looked at Yixian. I want to follow Big Brother Young Lord. Big Brother Young Lord. Hearing this, Xian Gudian frowned slightly. She turned to look at Yixian. Can we talk in private? Yixian nodded. All right. Xian Gudian turned around and walked to the side. Yixian stood up and followed her. Meanwhile, he suddenly felt his sleeve tighten. When he turned around, he saw Xianxia staring at him nervously. Yixian grinned. Don't worry. Xianxia hesitated for a moment, and then she let go. Yixian and Xian Gudian walked towards the distance. At this moment, more than a dozen divine senses locked onto Yixian. Yixian frowned slightly. Xian Gudian turned his head and glanced at the guards. The guards immediately retracted their divine senses and slightly bowed. Xian Gudian turned to look at Yixian. My apologies. Yixian glanced at Xian Gudian and felt slightly surprised. Xian Gudian suddenly said, that girl's physique isn't simple at all, and her future accomplishments are limitless. However, she needs a larger platform. Without a larger platform, her natural talent and physique will be buried. She stopped moving when she spoke up to this point, and then she turned around to look at Yixian. I'm not looking down on you, but I feel that I can give her better. If my words offended you, then I apologize. Yixian grinned, and then he turned to glance at Xianxia. At this moment, Xianxia was looking at him nervously. Obviously, she was afraid that he would sell her out. Yixian smiled, and then he looked at Xian Gudian. I'm Yixian, what's your name? Xian Gudian looked at Yixian. Xian Gudian. Yixian smiled. Miss Yao, you're right. She really does need a larger platform. So, it might be better for her to follow me. Xian Gudian's eyes narrowed slightly when she heard this, and she just stared at Yixian as if she wanted to see through Yixian. Yixian grinned. I didn't mean to offend you. I appreciate Miss Good intentions on behalf of my Xianxia. As he spoke, he bowed slightly, and then he turned around and left. Xian Gudian remained silent. Yixian walked over to Xianxia and Shu Xian, and then Xianxia hurriedly grabbed Yixian's right sleeve. Yixian smiled. Let's go. Xianxia's expression instantly relaxed when she heard this. The three of them stood up and left. Yixian suddenly asked Xianxia, do you know that girl from just now? She's very formidable. If you follow her, then you'll be able to live a good life in the future. Xianxia fell silent for a moment, and then she said, I know. Yixian was a little curious. Then why didn't you agree? Xianxia fell silent for a moment, and then she said, if you follow her, you'll be invincible in the universe of gods. If you follow Big Brother Young Master, you'll be invincible in the entire universe. Hearing this, Yixian stopped and turned to look at Xianxia. At this moment, he suddenly felt that this girl in front of him was somewhat unfamiliar. Xianxia lowered her head slightly, and she was somewhat nervous. After a moment, Yixian grinned. Don't be nervous, it's good to have ambition. Hearing this, Xianxia's heart instantly relaxed. The group left. In front of the noodle stall, Xian Gudian came to the table and sat down, and a bowl of noodles was quickly served. The boss of the noodle stall was about to cry. Such a big shot came to eat noodles? Xian Gudian looked at the noodles in front of her for a long time, and then she suddenly moved her chopsticks. At this moment, an old man appeared beside Xian Gudian, and the old man bowed slightly. Miss, that person doesn't know how to appreciate kindness. Do you want this subordinate to? Xian Gudian glanced coldly at the old man, and the latter's expression instantly changed, and he hurriedly shut his mouth. Xian Gudian slowly closed her eyes. From this moment onwards, you don't have to follow me. The old man was horrified, and his voice trembled. Miss, this, Xian Gudian spoke softly, I don't want to have stupid people by my side. If I stay with stupid people, I'm afraid that I'll become stupid as well. As she spoke, she waved her hand, and it didn't take long for two mysterious experts to take the old man away. Meanwhile, a beautiful woman slowly walked over to Xian Gudian's side, bowed slightly and said, "They didn't leave the city and went to Antique Street. I sent people to escort them in secret, so no one caused trouble for them." Xian Gudian turned to look at the beautiful woman. "Aunt Lan, what do you think of that youth?" The beautiful woman fell silent for a moment, and then she said, "Ignoring strength, his mental state and bearing are at the top of the world, and he might even surpass you. There are 3 points. Firstly, with your status, anyone who sees you would be nervous and timid, but this youth is calm and composed when facing you, and he doesn't seem nervous at all. Secondly, with your beauty, ordinary men would feel a sense of inferiority when seeing you, but when he spoke to you, he dared to look you straight in the eye, and he was neither servile nor overbearing." She paused for a moment, and then she said, "This is a person with an extremely strong heart." Xian Gudian ate a mouthful of noodles, and then she said, "And the 3rd point?" The beautiful woman said, "When he spoke to you, we enveloped him with our divine sense, and he revealed a displeased expression. This means that he is an extremely powerful person, because only experts would dare to act like that. If it was a weak person, they would be nervous and apprehensive." Xian Gudian suddenly put down her chopsticks. "There is one more thing." The beautiful woman bowed slightly. "Miss, please speak. I'm listening." Xian Gudian looked at the noodles in front of her. "He eats noodles very naturally." "To what extent?" "It's so natural that it seems like he eats it on a regular basis." She stood up and said, "This is a youth who walked out from suffering. At the same time, his identity isn't simple at all. He was probably specially sent out by a powerful power to gain experience." When she spoke up to this point, she turned to look at the stall owner. "Did they not pay for their noodles just now?" The stall owner was stunned, and then he hurriedly nodded. Those 3 really hadn't paid for their noodles when they left just now. Xian Gudian opened her palm, and a small cloth bag slowly floated over to the stall owner. "I'll pay for their noodles." With that, she turned around and left. P.S. 11 chapters. Those readers who said they didn't last more than 10 chapters, come out and apologize, vote, and tip. Be more self-aware. Thank you. 7017K, you're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.